But me, Yummy, Louie T, welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up and take command. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So tonight is going to be a little bit different of a night. Obviously, this is a different night than you're accustomed to. And I felt like it was only right to come live tonight instead of Wednesday because of everything that has transpired. A lot has happened since the last time we've spoken on I think Friday was the last episode that we had done, the last practice prior to the practice under the lights at FedEx Field. You had a number of guys released. You had a number of guys signed since then. Some guys have gotten injured or at least not have practiced. Some others have returned to practice. There was a lot of conversation that really pissed me off. And I don't know why I allowed things like this to get under my skin, but it did, just a smidge. When people who don't follow this team closely think they know what's going on, that's when I have a problem. So I'm going to address that tonight. Among other topics that really was disappointing. And so we'll get to all of that. And then practice today, right? No pads today, but back to the practice field for the burgundy and gold. And we'll talk about that as well. So many different people have spoke at the podium. I'll give you the best of the best sounds from the podium and give you a couple of tidbits there. I thought that the Washington Commanders content department, has done a tremendous job of letting us in a little bit more. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen the draft video that they put out. It's probably about maybe 3 to 5 minutes long of the war room on draft night and them kind of going through the process of trading back in the first round to 16 and ultimately settling in on Jahan Dotson. I had told you, and I had some intel, and I wasn't sure if my intel was legit, but I told you I trusted the source, and it turned out to be legit because everything I told you in the video, you saw it. I told you guys that they wanted to speak to Green Bay and that they had contacted and reached out to Green Bay to see if they could move back yet again. So all of those things transpired, but ultimately they moved back with New Orleans, got their man Jahan Dotson, and the rest is history, and we feel really good about what we got there. Obviously, I told you guys about the Jahan Dotson mic'd up. That was a lot of fun. And so they've put out a lot of good content. Check out what they're doing over there on their YouTube channel as well. But so much to get to. It was just so much to get to that I felt like we needed to come and chop it up live and talk about it. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what this week is going to look like, because it's a unique week, as it's the first time we're getting back to actual professional tackle football on the television regarding the burgundy and gold. So this week, instead of me being live on Wednesday, usually it's Thursday, but now that games are going to be actually played every Thursday from here on out, except for the last Thursday in October or August, which is that last week where there's no games, right? Everyone's off that week. And in the first week of September is when we kick off the season with the Bills and Rams. Every Thursday we'll now have football, right? And you might even have some college football that last weekend in August. You may even get some college football games. But so the program, the live stream, the Command Post Live will be moved to Wednesdays now, which is what we do during the season anyway, right? And obviously the Command Post is going to shift from, just the Command Post to, Washington Nightly News, Commanders Nightly News, whatever I decide to call it. I haven't even decided what I'm going to call it. It's not going to be anything fancy, okay? It's going to be something simple, probably Commanders Nightly News, more likely than not. And it'll shift to that, and we'll be live for that, program on Wednesday night. And, we'll start talking about everything. And it's going to be kind of similar to what we're doing right now, kind of keeping you abreast of everything each and every single day. For those of you who have followed me over the last few years, you've seen Nightly News, you know what it's about, and you can expect that this coming fall. But this particular week, because of the Saturday practice under the lights and all the things that occurred there, Then you had the, subsequent releases of several players and then them signing a few guys. I talked about this on Friday. So again, a lot of what we've talked about coming to fruition. I said, look, we're starting to see these injuries pile up and it's starting to impact practice. And I talked about that specifically. And then Rivera talked about it after I talked about it, how it's starting to impact practice. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure these things out. You got 4 tight ends on the shelf, and now you're running, with the first team guys, you're running a guy that has no business even getting reps with the first team. And Amani Rodgers, this guy was a college quarterback just a season ago. This time last year, he was preparing for a college football season in the MAC as a quarterback. Okay? So you're talking about a guy that is so raw at the quarterback, at the tight end position. He has no business taking meaningful first team reps. And this is how you're running your practice? I mean, how are guys supposed to get better when the guy who's out there running the routes isn't even sure about if he's lining up in the right place or not? It's tough. So it makes everything harder on the rest of the offense. It makes it harder to evaluate some of the other players that are on offense. Remember, once upon a time, Robert Griffin III was here, and I remember Chris Cooley saying this like it was yesterday. This was during the 2014 season, Jay Gruden's first season here. And Cooley would do the film breakdown on the radio program. And after one of the games, I want to say it was the Rams debacle when we got our asses handed to us by the Rams. That same game where Jeff Fisher brought all the guys out to midfield before the game for the coin toss that they had gotten through the Robert Griffin III trade. He was trolling us. And then we proceeded to go out there, and you know what? It wasn't that game. It was the Buccaneers game. The Buccaneers came. They weren't even good then, okay? Buccaneers came to Washington, handed us a sound beating, 27-7, something along those lines. And the offense was anemic. It was static. It was like it always was with Robert in those years. We couldn't move the football. And I remember Cooley, clear as day, coming on and saying, I can't even evaluate the other players because his play at the quarterback position compromised everyone else's ability to do their job. I can't even properly evaluate the other players. And that's kind of what happens when you have too many injuries to guys on one side of the football. It starts to compromise the way you can run practice, how you call plays, and how things ultimately go. And now other guys who are supposed to be doing their jobs are compromised. So we'll get into that in a second. But so many things happened on Saturday with that practice. Subsequently, Sunday with, releasing guys, signing guys, and then Monday having practice and some things going on there. And then all of the chatter in between, which really got under my skin. And I don't know why. I know better. But when you know better, you do better. And a lot of y'all know better, and some of them trolls and some of those people don't know better. But still, I know better. So I'm going to encourage that you do better. So I got to speak the truth on that. And then we can get to today's practice. And there are so many different topics. It was so much I had to write down. Normally, I don't write down, a lot of stuff. It's usually off the dome. I watch a press conference. I listen to this, I read that, and I kind of jumble all these thoughts together, make a little skeleton of an outline, and then I go. I literally wrote down everything on a full pad because it was so much so that I wouldn't forget everything. So I'll be reading off of my pad tonight because it's so much stuff that I don't want to forget anything that I want to discuss with you guys. So we'll go. We're live tonight. You'll have a regular show tomorrow. You'll have a regular show on Wednesday. No live show. Thursday, I'll be watching the preseason games, and I may go live after some of those preseason games, one or two of those preseason games, maybe just one, and talk about all the things that I saw. But it won't be Washington, related. You'll just get a regular video. Friday, you're going to get a live video during the day. It's not a normal, Friday, regular nighttime live stream like normal. It's going to be during the day because generally, I don't do these types of things on Friday, but obviously this is a unique set of circumstances. We got a preseason game on Saturday, and it's going to be a significant one. We're going to talk about that tonight. It's going to be a significant preseason game, right? I talked about how the Panthers are going to play their starters, and I had a couple of Panthers viewers in the comment section of my my podcast video that were there because I was breaking down the NFC South. And they said, yeah, no, we're going to play our starters. And we've been through this, right? We've been through a quarterback battle in camp, and we know how those go. And we know how you have to play guys a little bit longer in order to give both guys a fair opportunity. It looks like it's Baker Mayfield's job to lose in Carolina, but they're going to give Sam Darnold an opportunity, right? So I think you're going to see the starters for a much more significant amount of time than you would normally see the starters of an NFL team in the first preseason game. So I expect the Panthers at bare minimum to play their starters, at least offensively. I can't speak for the defense, especially if they come out and dominate us. We could see them have 2 possessions and be out of there defensively if they feel good about what they've seen. Offensively, however, they've got some things to iron out. I think there's a possibility you could see their starters for a full quarter in the first preseason game, which is unheard of these days. Most teams don't even play their starters at all in the preseason, period. No game, not first, second, or third. So I think there's a chance that this preseason game in particular could be pretty significant on both teams' sides. And so we could actually see a very competitive game with a lot to take away from it in the first preseason game, which is rare, right? I think it's the perfect storm. So I'm excited about the fact that we're playing the Panthers, but you'll get a live stream out of me to prepare you for that game. Obviously, Saturday, you'll have a live stream, a post-game live stream, right? And so that's what the week will look like. And I think next week we'll go back to some sort of, normalcy because the preseason game is on Saturday again, and you'll probably get a similar Friday live stream during the day from me, but I think we'll go back to the normal Wednesday live stream next week. But this week, there was just so much that happened that I didn't have a chance to tackle when I really wanted to tackle it, and it was just too much for me to just do it in one little video and upload it. I needed to come to you guys, and we needed to chop it up, and we needed to talk about it. So let's get to Saturday first. Saturday's practice under the lights at FedEx Field. I want to start with who was out of practice, who did practice, and then let's get to some of the topics that kind of was spawned from that practice. So William Jackson III was out with a hamstring. That's the second year in a row he's missed the FedEx Field under the lights Saturday practice. Last year it was the same exact thing. You get to the practice, you're thinking he's going to be out there, and then he's got a wrap around his hamstring and he doesn't play. Again, I don't care. De'Ami Brown did not participate. That was not something that should have surprised anyone. He had not practiced probably the 3 or 4 days prior to that, so that wasn't a surprise. John Bates' calf, we knew he was going to be out. Cole Turner had just, injured the hammy like one practice before, maybe 2 practices before. So we already knew he wasn't going to be out there. James Smith-Williams, the hip had kept him out of practice probably for the last week or so. So we knew he wasn't going to be out there. Shaka Toney was a new entry to the list of injuries. Don't even know what the ailment is for him. He was out of practice. Trey Turner, the quad, he's been out since the first week of training camp with the quad injury. Again, no reason to rush. But we got to talk about that eventually, right? Sadiq Charles was a new entry. He was injured and not able to participate. Cornelius Lucas, non-injury related. They're working him back. He was out of camp the beginning when it started due to, if I'm guessing, and I hate to speculate, but I'm going to say it was COVID, something along those lines. But this is what I'm thinking. Last year, his birthday, so I know his birthday is right around when camp starts because he had a party last year. He ended up getting COVID, okay? And he missed the first portion of camp, with COVID out, had to get himself back right. And usually it takes some time. They don't like to rush guys back when they are coming back from COVID. So I'm assuming he had another birthday party, got COVID again. And I don't know this. I can't confirm nor deny this, but he's out for a non-injury related situation. I can't imagine what it could be other than that, other than him having something going on. But he's still working his way back. And then Troy Apke was also, and he's missed the last like 3 or 4 practices prior to this Saturday practice. So again, no surprise that he wasn't available. So that's a lot of guys. Not to mention, and that's not even mentioning the guys that are either transitioning their way back from injury, like Chase Young, that we know hasn't practiced and probably won't be ready for the start of the regular season, and Logan Thomas, and all of those guys that you could also throw into that mix that's working their way back, but not quite there yet. So there's a lot of injuries, and there are positions that are being hit harder than others, primarily the tight end position. The offensive line, you'd just like to see some continuity there. We'll talk about that here in a second and how that impacts practice. But that's a lot of guys, right? Again, this is the time of the year. If you're going to miss time, this is the time to do it. You do not want to rush anybody back this time of the year because of what that could mean for the rest of the season. You don't want lingering effects. You don't want a guy that had a hammy in camp because you decided, oh man, we got to get this guy back. Got to see him on the field. That he then tweaks it even further, and now he's not ready for the start of the regular season. That's when it matters, right? Trey Walker, we talked about this linebacker, undrafted out of Idaho. You already talked about the fact that Drew White tore his ACL. They had to release him. We were already questioning the depth at linebacker as is. And not to say that Drew White and Trey Walker is significant depth, right? Like these guys aren't players that we know we can rely on, but we were interested to see what these guys could bring to the table and if we could maybe unearth a gem. Maybe there's a diamond in the rough that you didn't draft, that you find out, hey, this guy can actually play, you know, a la Cam Sims or Steven Sims Jr. for 1 year. So you were hoping maybe we unearthed something here. Well, he retired. Then he decided 1 day later, I think I made a mistake. And so he unretires and he shows up and he's actually out on the field for the Saturday night practice. Good for him. Ron talked about it. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show when we talk about some of the things Ron was talking about the last couple of days. But Trey Walker back at the linebacker position. I was like, cool, that's great. We still need to do something. And they ultimately did. We'll talk about that here in a second. Another topic that I want to tackle real quick, the field. It looked great. Now, I was expecting more from you guys in terms of feedback. I know a lot of you went to this Saturday practice. I saw a ton of videos, but I was expecting more messages from you like, hey, this is what I saw, or a video here or there. I really didn't get much of anything from anybody. I was shocked. I was like, wow. I thought I would get more from you guys that were in attendance, but I didn't. But that was cool. I saw the field. It looked great. The logo looked nice at midfield. And remember, everything's going to look different on the field. And so, obviously they didn't do the end zone. They didn't need to go that far, but the field looked to be in great shape. Remember, they put down the whole, drainage system and everything last year. So maybe the grass is starting to really reap the benefits of having a new irrigation system and everything under the field. And the logo looked great in the middle of the field. I can't wait till they paint the end zones. I think this thing is actually going to turn out well. The helmets looked great. They popped. I was very pleased with what I saw from an aesthetics standpoint. Okay. Fan turnout. Again, this was something that I was banking on you guys telling me, because from the looks of it, it looked like there were a significant amount of people there, but then it didn't look like it was as full as it could have been, right? So I wanted to know, were there a lot of fans there or not? That's something that I could only get from you guys that were there in attendance. Because Ron kept talking about feeding off the energy of the crowd. They're doing their best to try to convince fans to come out. and that's cool. You can save your breath. If you're Ron Rivera, if you're the players, Jonathan Allen's been doing, his part to try to, raise enthusiasm for the upcoming season and come out. All of that is great. You guys can save your breath. You can save the time that you're wasting begging and pleading and asking fans to come out. Win football games. That is the only way. Like, clearly, if the league decided tomorrow that Daniel Snyder had to go, then you would fill up the stadium week 1, right? If he was gone as owner. But that's not going to happen. So, sans for that taking place, you need to win football games if you want to fill it up with fans of your team and not fans of the other team. Okay? So, they could quit with all the, begging and wishing and praying and pleading with the fans to come out. Win football games consistently, and they will come. If you win, they will come. Trust me. I've seen it happen. If you win, they will come. Okay? But Curtis Samuel practiced on Saturday. Pleasant surprise. I'm going to be honest with you. I wasn't expecting him to play and practice on Saturday. I wasn't, because he had practiced multiple times during the week. He's on this plan that they've been, keeping him on, just not overworking him, trying to keep him, in football shape, but not pushing him too hard to then tweak something. So I felt like he had practiced just about every day, the prior week, or during the week, I should say. And they did have the little walkthrough on Thursday. So that was a nice little change up. And Friday, was a practice that was, it was a physical type of practice on Friday heading into the Saturday practice. And I did not know if he was going to follow that up with another practice. I was shocked. He practiced on Saturday and he practiced on Monday. Now, Monday wasn't padded, but still, it's 2 practices in a row. I get it. There was an off day in between. And Ron said, hey, we about to scale him back. Don't get excited. Cool. I get it. But it was nice to see him out there. He caught a touchdown too. So that's always good, right? I think we have to have a Marken Michel conversation, because this is a name that I heard early in camp as a guy to watch at the receiver position. I wasn't buying it, because the first thing I wanted to know about Marken Michel is, does this guy field punts and return kicks? If the answer is yes, I'm intrigued. Tell me more. When I found out he doesn't return punts nor kickoffs, you can stop talking. I don't need to hear anything else you need to say about this kid. He's not making the football team. That was my stance on Marken Michel early in camp. When people were talking about him, he was starting to generate a buzz. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. A couple of beat writers were talking about this kid, singled him out, said that he was having a strong camp, and they were really interested in him because this is a guy that was here last year. So unlike some of the other young guys that were here that, aren't here any longer or still vying for a roster spot that more likely than not aren't going to make the team, he is well-versed in the playbook. He's been here, so he knows what to expect from Scott Turner and Ron Rivera and this coaching staff. And so he's got the upper hand, so to speak, on some of the other guys that are young, undrafted, and so forth and so forth. Even Alex Erickson, who's a veteran that's coming in here, he's got the advantage because he's been here. That said, he doesn't do the one thing that a guy like him has to be able to do in his position to make the football team. Because as we've said already, 5 of the receiver spots, we think they're going to keep 6. I feel confident that the number is 6. It was 6 last year. I think it's going to be 6 again this year. The 6th guy has to return punts and kickoffs. That's not an optional ordeal, okay? There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The 6th receiver on this team must, M-U-S-T, all caps, return kickoffs and punts. That guy was DeAndre Carter last season. That guy, more likely than not, this year is going to have to fill the same role. It's either going to be Dax Mill it's either going to be Alex Erickson, and Jaquiz Izzard was in that conversation. He was released with a injury designation. He was waived. So I'm right now, I'm looking at Dax Milne and I'm saying, bro, it's your job to lose. You do what you want to do with it, but it's your job. Markin Michel is making a name for himself. He had a big catch on Saturday evening, deep ball from Carson Wentz. He's been making a lot of big catches during practice. He's been shining. There have been drops. You know, he hasn't been clean. He hasn't been perfect, but he's made enough of a name for himself. He's made enough noise to get the interest of the coaching staff. There have been enough injuries, De'Ami Brown and Curtis Samuel not practicing here and there. There have been enough guys out that he's gotten more opportunities that he's taken advantage of. That said, I don't think he's in the running to be the sixth receiver and make this football team because, again, you got to return punts and kickoffs, and I haven't heard his name mentioned. When we hear about punts and kickoffs, I've heard more of Kyrick McGowan, the undrafted rookie out of Georgia Tech, fielding punts and kickoffs more so than Markin Michel. I don't think he's returning them at all. Don't think that's his steez, right? Which is fine. But if you're not doing that, you can't make the team. So I don't think he's going to make the team. However, he can be the seventh receiver, the first guy off the bench. In case of an emergency, De'Ami Brown has this flare up again because we've seen in his first season, De'Ami Brown has no problems missing 2 to 4 weeks with a hamstring. He's missing time right now due to a leg injury, right? So what if that happens during the season and you need to pull somebody up? Maybe Markin Michel is that guy. I think he is trying to cement that position for himself. The seventh receiver. Not going to make the team, but the first guy off the list. You know, in college basketball, when we are looking at the NCAA tournament and the field of 64 or whatever it is now, 68, I think it is now, and like Joe Lunardi's first 4 out. He's the first one out of the receivers. I think he's starting to push himself into that position. Don't think he can make it, but I don't think he is a guy that, you know, they're going to just jettison away if he doesn't make this football team. I think they're going to keep him around, and they really like this kid. So I'll be looking for him during the preseason to see if he shines more. And because there could be the cornerback that came out of nowhere last year and made the roster. There could be a guy here that we're not talking about that there is a little bit of a buzz generating, but we're like, he's not making the team. And he goes out, continues to play and make plays at practice, and those preseason games come along, and he's continuing to stake his claim. And at some point you say, all right, how can we deny this kid? We can't. I'm not saying it's Markin Michel, but I'm just telling you, you're starting to see him kind of raise his game up to the point where I think he is warranting more opportunities. That's all I'm saying. And then there's Carson Wentz, and the conversation around his inaccuracy and thus the struggles of the offense in training camp. And that conversation alone was enough to irritate me to the point where I felt like I wanted to rant. It had gotten to the point where I was pretty upset about the things that I was seeing, the things that I was hearing. But this is why I don't do things in the moment. Like, as soon as you hear something, you just react to it, because sometimes you just need to take a step back, process everything, and then approach it with a clear and level head. Because when I saw the bleacher, so it's one thing when the beat reporters who have been there all camp, that have watched Carson Wentz's up and down performances at practice, and then you see it kind of culminate in the practice on Saturday, where a lot of the people that were there that I was getting messages from, and then the beat reporters that I'm following are like, yo, Carson Wentz is really struggling. And then, he would throw a BB like the one he threw to Jahan Dotson. Got to see that one. Or he would throw the dime down the field to Markin Michel. Got to see that one. Or the throw to Terry, which was ridiculous. He didn't even move his feet. His body wasn't even facing the direction that he threw the football in. And he throws a dart to Terry back shoulder for the touchdown on Danny Johnson. So there's all of these different throws that he makes that makes you say, and this is what Carson Wentz has been throughout his career, that makes you say, wow. But then there are the misses, right? And there are a lot of them right now. And so I don't have a problem with that. That's the truth. The truth is he's been up and down. He's been inaccurate. He's been inconsistent. That's truth. I'm not looking to run from the truth. What I don't like is when Bleacher Report decides they want to dip their toe in the water and they want to put out this headline to try to spark a bunch of interest in Ron Rivera defending Carson Wentz despite major inaccuracies during camp. And for those on the outside looking in, for those who haven't been following the team, yeah, he's been up and down, right? But not to the point where it's a problem and you have to now reassess whatever predictions you had for the team. You got to reassess those and start thinking about, man, maybe I made a mistake. We're not at that point yet. And for Bleacher Report to come out, put that headline out there, because that's an attention grabber. You know, for Jacksonville Jaguars fans out there that think they're coming into FedEx and winning week 1, they see that and they're getting excited. Oh, Wentz is struggling. My buddy, he's a Raiders fan. He has no idea what's going on up in Ashburn. No clue. Could care less, honestly. Okay? We have conversations all the time, but a lot of times we're not even talking football. We're talking about other stuff. All right? This is when you know some shit has hit mainstream and now he's getting involved. Okay? He hits me up. He's like, yo, everything good with y'all out there in Washington? What's going on with Wentz? I saw that he was in it. I'm like, see, this is the shit I'm talking about. You shouldn't be bringing that shit to my doorstep because it's not that big of a deal, honestly. I'm pretty sure that if you go around the league at various training camps of quarterbacks that have either changed teams or are young quarterbacks, they're struggling too, right? Inaccurate, up and down practices, throwing interceptions, missing targets that they should hit, timing and rhythm isn't there, various reasons as to why. But you don't bring that shit up because it's camp and everybody's got shit going on at their particular camp. Somebody brought to me early in the Eagles camp that Jalen Hurts was struggling and he was wildly inaccurate. He wasn't on the same page with A.J. Brown, and they were laughing at him and they were like, see? And I'm like, why are you bringing this to me? It's camp. It's early. What do you think is going to happen? This is the time that you work on that rapport. This is the time you build that chemistry. In doing that, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to miss open receivers. You're going to throw interceptions. You're pushing the envelope. This is when you do that so you can go back, put that on tape, sit down, watch it, assess, critique, and get better. If that's not happening, that's a problem. Maybe that's not happening for Patrick Mahomes. Maybe that's not happening for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe that's not happening for Josh Allen. Maybe that's not happening for some of the elites in the game. But for the rest of the quarterbacks, for the guys that haven't been in the same system 3-4 years, that haven't been playing with the same receivers for 3-4 years, yeah, that's happening everywhere. So to single out Washington, and you would have thought that Carson was awful and that Ron Rivera had to swat off 5 or 6 different reporters that were aggressively coming after him. Like, I hadn't watched the press conference yet when that Bleacher Report headline hit. I hadn't watched it yet. I was saving it because I hadn't had a chance to sit down. I like to sit down, digest everything. I mean, really, really analyze what's being said. What have I seen? What have I heard? Putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. I like to have all of my ducks lined up in a row when I sit down to analyze what's going on so I can bring you my opinion when I sit down in front of the camera. I want to make sure I come correct. I see that headline and I'm thinking, oh shit. Ron must have had to have swatted off 3 or 4 different attempts at reporters getting at him about Carson's inaccuracy, and he must have been horrible. And that's not what he was. He wasn't great. The offense wasn't great. But I'm gonna dive into that. And I listened to the presser and I'm like, that was weak. That was one question about Carson. Are you concerned? And Ron's like, no, I already told y'all this shit. I'm not concerned. We've already gone through this. And then Ron started listing the shit that I've been telling you guys about. And the thing that really pissed me off, not just the Bleacher Report, because that's what Bleacher Report does. They're always searching for a story, a headline, something to make you click on their app. They're putting that bait out there, okay? That clickbait. What I was disappointed in, and generally speaking, I don't like to bring social media into any rational conversation that I'm having because social media isn't real, okay? Everything on social media, you always have to question, is this shit legit? Even when people post things, if they don't have a blue check, so I'm talking about myself and all the rest of us that don't have blue checks, you got to wonder, does this guy have an agenda? Does this female, does this person have an agenda? Are they even a fan of the team that they're portraying with their thumbnail and their name? You click on their link and they got all giant shit, but yet they're talking as if they're a Washington fan just so they can troll. I see a tweet and this shit has all these likes and retweets of a fan that says, I just left the Redskins practice. First of all, we're not the goddamn Redskins anymore. Okay. You can call them whatever you want, though. If you've been a fan of this team and you still want to call them Redskins, knock yourself out. I don't give a shit. But he's like, and I didn't check to see if he was really a fan or not. This is the shit people do, act as if they're a fan of the team, say some shit. People like, yeah, I told them this, that, and the third. Shut up. Anyway, he's like, I just came from the Redskins practice. We're not going to win a game this season. And of course, I told you I'm a lurker, so I go in the comment section. It's a bunch of fans from different teams that don't know what the hell they're talking about. So I'm like, all right, I don't need to be here. Okay. But you hear that, you see that, you feel that energy, and you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Clearly, you don't know anything. Okay. And look, Carson may ultimately stink. That is a realistic possibility. He may come here and stink the joint up. We may be turning to Taylor Heineke by week 7 because Carson Wentz has been an absolute abject disaster and epic fail. That's a realistic possibility. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it isn't. However, to sit here and act as if his camp has been one of the worst ever, and just consider these factors, okay? I need to say this, all right? Because on one side of the coin, right? One side of the fence, if you will, they're the people that didn't want this trade, don't believe in Carson Wentz, and they think he's not the answer for this football team. On the other side of the fence, on the other side of the coin, are fans that are all in. They believe in Carson Wentz. They believe in the trade. They believe in his long-term, sticking power, sustainability, the ability to neutralize the issues we've had at quarterback and stabilize the position that has been a thorn in our side for the better part of 3 decades, sans for a pocket of time when we had Kirk Cousins. And then there are people that are standing on the fence. They're straddling the fence. They don't know which direction to go in. Not sure if Wentz is the answer. Not sure if Wentz can get the job done. Don't want to lean too far to either side. Just kind of taking a wait and see approach. All of these people have their own opinions, and that's facts, right? They have opinions. Fact. You know what else is fact? That since Carson Wentz has gotten here, first of all, this is the first offense Carson Wentz has played in that isn't the one he was in Philadelphia. Okay. So this is the first time he's really had truly a different offense to play in his career. He was with the Eagles. He was with Frank Wright and with head coach Doug Peterson. He and Peterson leave the same year, and he leaves and goes directly to Frank Wright and he's pretty much in the same offense that he's been in his entire career. So he's able to pick that up like that. So maybe you don't hear about the struggles necessarily. All right. He spends the entire offseason with all the receivers. He's getting those reps. Nobody's holding out because they're looking for a contract. There aren't a whole bunch of injuries to guys that you're looking to throw the football to. Shit, he didn't really have many guys to throw the goddamn football to anyway. So as long as the 2 tight ends were there, Michael Pittman was there, and Nyheim Hines was there, that's pretty much all the supporting cast he had in Indianapolis any damn way, right? That said, he got timing and rhythm down with some of those guys. He knew the playbook, so that was one thing off of his plate. And they didn't ask him to do as much, obviously, in Indianapolis with the run game and things of that nature. But this is the first time in Washington that he's had a brand new playbook. And he's like, hey, even some of the concepts that are the same, they read them out differently. The progression is different. Whereas in Philadelphia, we're reading it here first. They want me to read it here first. So now I have to undo that. I have to untrain my brain to look at it, reading it this way, and I have to read it this way, or from here to here. So there's a lot that goes into that, a lot of nuances that go into that. Okay, but let's set that aside because I feel like he's starting to get comfortable with the actual playbook itself. Okay, he's a smart guy. Feel like he's starting to get there. Let's put that aside. You talk about chemistry. You talk about inaccuracies and, the different things that exist. You've got a receiver in Terry McLaurin who he didn't work with until 2 weeks before training camp when he took all the receivers that wanted to come out, all the skill guys that wanted to come out to California. That's the first time he got work with Terry McLaurin since he got to Washington, okay? So they're still working on chemistry. Noticeably absent from that trip to California. And look, no one's obligated to do anything they don't want to do. A lot of people took umbrage with the fact that Curtis Samuel wasn't there. He said he had some family things to take care of. I don't care if he did or didn't. He didn't want to go. That's his prerogative. It's his off time. So he wasn't there, and he's been in and out of the lineup, yo-yoing back and forth. So they're still working on timing. You know who else has been in and out of the lineup? De'Ami Brown, okay? Another guy in and out of the lineup. So can't really get on the same page with guys if they're not practicing every single day, if you're not getting the repetitions and the reps every single day. So now you're throwing to different guys, different size guys, different, speed guys that run routes differently. And so the timing isn't there. So now a pass is behind the guy. Now a pass is too high because I was just throwing to a 6'5" Cam Sims. Now I'm throwing to a 5'11" Curtis Samuel. You know what I mean? So these things, and again, not trying to make a ton of excuses, but we all know continuity, chemistry, it matters. Okay. How a guy comes out of his break, that matters. I'm telling you this because I didn't play at a high level. I'm not going to sit here and act as if I did, but I can tell you the difference it makes between me coming out of a break and a guy that's 5 times faster than me, quicker than me, that may not waste any movement coming out of a break. It's going to look different. He may get to this landmark at a much quicker rate than I will. So when he flips his head around, that ball needs to be there. I flip my head around, that ball's already in my face. I got to put the hands up to defend myself. It's totally different. Then you got to throw into the mix the offensive line, not to mention the tight ends, haven't been there. So now you're throwing, instead of you throwing to John Bates, instead of you throwing to Cole Turner, now you're throwing to Amani Rodgers. It changes everything. Okay. Now it's Hodges, Curtis Hodges. Okay. Like all of these things matter, but you know what else has been something that we haven't really talked about because we just believe in John Matsko and we're like, oh, we'll be fine. Is this damn offensive line. Okay. For the most part, the guys on the outside have been fine. They've been at every practice, no issues there. Knock on a little bit of wood. Let's keep it that way. But the interior of the offensive line has been interesting, to say the least, okay? Between working back in Chase Roulier, who just came off the PUP list, so they're not going to rush him back. He's just getting back from major ankle surgery. The man had a plate put in his ankle. He said, my ankle will never be the same. Never. You can't expect him to just jump back into the fray like nothing ever happened and not miss a beat. So they're working him in slowly, okay? Trey Turner hasn't practiced since the first week of camp, really like the first 2-3 days of camp. All right. And then you've got Andrew Norwell at left guard, and he's coming in and he's trying to find his footing, literally trying to find his footing. Okay. So our defensive line is feasting on these guys. Okay. This ragtag group that they're putting on the interior, because even with the injuries, you're like, oh, let's stick Sadiq Charles in there. Well, Sadiq Charles is out. Okay. Well, let's stick Wes. Well, Wes is taking snaps at center. Okay. So you got to find somebody else to play guard. So now you got all these randos getting opportunities and snaps, and you're like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? Why is our offensive line being bullied, pushed into the lap of Carson Wentz, to the point now where the coaching staff is telling Carson Wentz, hey, if a guy is in your lap, do not follow through on your throw. We do not want you breaking your finger, your thumb, or anything on someone's helmet. Don't follow through. You know what that does to a pass? It leaves it high. Our offensive line has been getting its ass kicked by our defensive line. I don't want them to stop kicking their ass either. I want the offensive line to do a better job of protecting. So when you factor all of this shit in, Wentz in a new offense, needs timing and rhythm with the rapport with the receivers, and an offensive line that hasn't been stabilized to this point. The 5 guys that we expect to start week 1 versus Jacksonville has not had a single practice with one another yet. Not one. Not to mention, you're down to your 5th tight end. Okay? Your 5th tight end. No Sammy Reyes, no John Bates. Okay. No Logan Thomas. No Cole Turner. It's Amani Rodgers. And then the Curtis Hodges, he got injured. I mean, what are we talking about here? So I don't want to keep talking about Amani Rodgers. He's not going to make this football team. But that's who we're talking about. Carson Wentz throwing a seam route 15 yards up the field. Ron Rivera's like, yeah, that was a nice catch. But this guy doesn't even know where to line up at. And he's done some good things. I don't want to shit on the kid. And we like him a lot. But he just converted from quarterback last year. This is his first time playing tight end. Like, this kid doesn't even know where to line up half the time. He can't run block to save his life right now, so you can't even run the football the way you want to. That was evident by Friday's practice, shit getting blown up. Antonio Gibson fumbling and all kinds of shit happening. Casey Toohill living in the backfield like he's an all-pro defensive end because you can't block anybody because you don't have any tight ends. So when somebody just out of the blue, hey, Carson Wentz is struggling, there's a lot of shit going on that you're not accounting for. Stay in your lane. Mind your damn business. I'm not concerned. All this shit that I just said, it's August the 8th. Okay. I am not one bit concerned. Okay. Not at all. My whole vision for this season has not been altered at all. I said 12-5. I meant 12-5. I'm sticking with 12-5. I said the magic number is 11, 12. Doesn't really matter to me. Maybe that one game decides whether you win the division or not. But if it's enough to get you in the postseason, I'm all for it. But nothing has changed. I still feel good about this team. And if you believe, so should you. There are a lot of factors going into why things haven't gone the way that we've intended for them to go. It don't look as clean right now. But guess what? That's life in the NFL. Shit happens. Injuries happen. Depth is tested. You find out in these moments, you find out what are the best 53 guys we got. Because guess what? In week 3, there will be an injury. In week 5, somebody will go down. That next guy needs to be battle tested enough to step in and us not see the production fall off of a damn cliff. So this is when those reps are had. And this is when you start to see your team harden, right? The calluses that build up from training camp, they start to harden. and you become a much more physical football team, mentally tough, and you're able to go out and withstand some of the bumps and bruises and the rigors of an NFL season. But make no mistake about it. I never said Carson Wentz was the next coming of Sonny Jurgensen. Okay. I don't know of any fan that said that. There's some fans that are super excited about him, think he's going to light it up. There's some fans that think he stinks and we shouldn't have traded for him. And we're going to be out here looking for a quarterback again, or maybe we'll have to, turn to Sam Howell at some point. And they may be right too. Everybody's got an opinion. However, one thing is for sure. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of reasons. You call them excuses if you like. If you don't like him, you don't like Wentz and you want to see him fail, then they're excuses. If you are willing to give him a chance and you understand how this works, then there are reasons. Whatever you call them, it's semantics. I don't give a shit. It's Landon Collins playing linebacker even though he's a safety. I don't give a shit. As long as you're getting the job done, that's all I care about. And at the end of the day, I expect Carson Wentz to get the job done. He's going to continue to work to get the timing down, the rhythm down with these players. And I think Scott Turner is going to absolutely relish the opportunity to have a quarterback and some of the weapons that he has at his disposal. He is going to relish calling plays in this offense with all of the guys we can put on the football field. And this shit will work. It will work. But to dismiss this thing and think that it's an epic fail in August, what a joke. And I was disappointed at some of you. I was disappointed at Bleacher Report. And at the end of the day, that's their job. That's what they do, right? I was disappointed in the fact that there were so many people ready to just, I saw Barstool after the whole comments surrounding Carson Wentz. They had a post. This is why the Commanders will never be good. This is what they're doing at practice. And if you remember, this is from OTAs. Some of the young boys out here having a good time in OTAs, okay, in May. Rookie OTAs in May. They were out there, doing some of the line dances, right? From their fraternities. They was out there getting it, right? We've all seen the clip. But yet, this is the joke they're trying to make. And they're insinuating this is what training camp looks like for us. Get out of here, man. Get the hell out of here, man. So, that's the kind of shit that pisses me off. I know the truth. You know the truth. But there's a lot of people out there that don't know the truth. And when they see something like that, they think that's the truth. Get out of here, man. So, I was in my feelings. I'm not going to lie to you. I was in my feelings over the weekend. But it's going to make it that much sweeter when we get to take all of this shit that's been thrown our way, bottle it up, uncork that bitch, and followed by flipping the bird to Barstool and all these stupid ass publications and all these people that think we're going to stink, and Adam Rank and all of them can kick rocks when we go 11-6, 12-5 and make the playoffs. All the people, the Madden rankings, having Carson Wentz ranked 26, all of that bullshit will come to roost eventually. Okay. But all I'm telling you guys in the fan base, I told you already, I told all of y'all this before. All we got is us. Okay. All the extra noise, all the other shit that's going on, that should be irrelevant to y'all. Their opinions only matter if you allow it to. And I had a moment of weakness. I allowed some outside shit to impact me. But at the end of the day, all I care about is how you view this team as fans. And that's what really got under my skin. Some of y'all spewing some of this nonsense are fans of the team. And look, I get it. But some of y'all who didn't believe in this or don't believe in anything this organization does because of Daniel Snyder and all of the shit that's happened in the past, I get it. We've had these conversations. I understand, and I am not talking directly to you. I'm talking to the people that believe in this trade or believe in the upcoming season, and then you allow something like this to flip the way you feel. At the end of the day, I'm preaching, I'm asking for patience. This is a work in progress. Allow this process to take place. Patience is necessary if this thing is to work the way that we hope that it does. You can't rush greatness. That is refined over time. Allow this, and I'm not saying that's what we're embarking upon. We're hoping we are, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying in order to get to that point, you have to allow the process to play itself out. You got to allow Carson Wentz to make mistakes. There will be 3-4 interception practices. Those shits happen this time of the year, okay? I remember last offseason, people were going nuts. Jimmy Garoppolo threw 5 interceptions in 49ers practice. Oh, my God, he sucks. That man was a dropped interception by Jaquiski Tart away from going to the Super Bowl. And I'm not a Jimmy Garoppolo fan. I don't think the man's very good at all. Still, this is the time of the year that those types of things happen. And when they get out to the masses, everybody likes to have fun with them. But it's a part of the process. Working out the kinks. Getting on the same page and building a rapport with the guy. This is the time that those things happen. Finding a way to entrust in the guys that are protecting you up front. Those 5 guys, you've got to have a rapport with them as well. These things are being built. I just told you, our starting 5 offensive line hasn't had a single rep with each other. A live rep. Not one yet. We're still waiting on that. This game upcoming against the Panthers, this shit's going to be fun to watch. This is not your ordinary first preseason game. This will not look like last year's preseason game against the New England Patriots, game 1. We have an agenda. They have an agenda. Generally, in these games, the agenda is don't get injured. Okay, so the least amount of snaps I can put my starters on the field for, that's what I'm going to do. If I feel like my guys need a little bit of work like Ron did last year, okay, they'll play 1 or 2 possessions. I'll get them out of there. If you don't think your guys need any work, you've gotten that in practice. You've done a scrimmage with the other team during the week, and you don't need to, worry about the game. You've already gotten good work in. You don't play them at all. And you'll see that around the league. Teams like the Rams and the Chargers, they don't play their starters in the preseason. Are you crazy? You're going to see more teams going to that format. Like, yeah, I'm not putting my guys out there. Seattle passed on the entire preseason last year. Russell Wilson didn't take a single snap in the preseason last year. That's not what our game's going to look like. Ron made it abundantly clear. Oh, no, Carson's going to play. He's playing. And he said it like, not only is he playing, he's going to get some significant snaps, like maybe 3 or 4 possessions worth. Now, again, if one of those possessions is 11 plays, 75 yards, capped by a 6-yard touchdown toss to Terry McLaurin, then the night's going to be cut short. You got what you needed to get out of it. You like what you saw, you move on. But if the first possession is 1 first down and punt, the second is 3 and out, no, you're probably going back out there for another possession or 2. So this will be an interesting one. After the Saturday practice, and it had a lot of fanfare. Terry got a rousing ovation when he came out. I heard a lot of great things about Chase Young signing autographs well after the practice was over. All of that good stuff. That's great. After the practice was done, Washington handled some business with some players. So they signed a linebacker. We've been talking about this for quite some time. They're going to sign a linebacker at some point. It was inevitable. I think the injury to Drew White, coupled with the retirement and the unretirement of Trey Walker, I think might have expedited that process a bit, but it was going to happen. Okay. They had to do something. I threw out a couple of names. I said, don't be surprised if they go knocking on the door of a John Bostic. Don't be surprised if AJ Klein, another, former Panther under Ron Rivera, isn't a guy that they sniff around. They decided to call up Nathan Gary, former Philadelphia Eagle, draft pick back in 2017, also on the practice squad of the 49ers last year, and decided to bring him in. Why? Because he's a guy with some athleticism. He's a guy that was an ex-safety at Nebraska that converted to linebacker in the NFL, which means he can run and he gives you some coverage ability. I put out a video, just a little snippet of me breaking down Nate Gary back when he was a part of that Eagles 2017 draft class. And so I uploaded that video because, I had it in the archives. So I went in the vault, pulled it out, and throw it out there just so you could kind of get a feel for what this guy's going to bring to the table. Don't overthink this, okay? He's depth only. You don't want to see Nate Gary in the game, but if you do, know that he's an athlete. He can run, but obviously there's a reason why he hasn't been on the field. Now, every defense isn't the same, and every responsibility in defenses isn't the same. You could have the same exact name for a position in multiple defenses, but the responsibility of that player is different. Jack Del Rio may ask Nathan Gary to do different things that the Eagles weren't asking him to do, or the 49ers weren't asking him to do, and he may actually excel in this defense here under Jack Del Rio, whereas he struggled with the Eagles with Jim Schwartz, and he struggled in San Francisco. It could be totally different under DeMeco Ryans. It could be different here under Jack Del Rio. I'm not saying. Just know that Ron said that they brought him in here because they needed another guy that could cover. In the event that something happened to one of our linebackers that's starting, they love what David Mayo brings to the table from a physical standpoint. I just always remember David Mayo getting smoked on that run for a touchdown by then rookie running back Ramondre Stevenson in the first preseason game last year down the sideline when we were trying to get a stop to get the football back to try to win the game with Steven Montez, and Ramondre Stevenson running up the sideline and watching poor, slow-ass David Mayo look like he's about to blow a damn tire trying to catch him and getting smoked down the sideline. And just thinking to myself, this is the guy that's supposed to provide us with depth. This is the guy that we're supposed to feel good about. Clearly, they're like, yeah, we love him in short yardage situations and down in the box as a thumper. But when he gets further away from the line of scrimmage, it becomes problematic. We need another guy that we trust away from the line of scrimmage. Enter in Nathan Gary. So they signed him. They signed safety Steven Parker and tight end Eli Wolf. Those last two guys, strictly for depth purposes, to run practice. Like Troy Apke hasn't been back in quite some time. I've already told you the tight end position is a ghost town right now. I mean, with all the injuries, and I told you Curtis Hodges was added to the list of guys that were banged up. That position was becoming problematic. And I'd already talked about it before Curtis Hodges had an injury. So they had to do something at tight end. Again, Eli Wolf isn't making this football team. These guys will eventually get healthy and will be fine. But for the time being, you got to run practice. I've talked about this. You got to run practice. So they had to sign him. And signing those guys, you have to have moves that are directly adjacent to those moves. And so they had to release some guys to make space for the guys that they signed. So Cole Kelly at quarterback, who, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was my guy Trevor Patch. Somebody said, oh, he's going to be our quarterback, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, okay. Cole Kelly is not going to ever be the starting quarterback of the Washington Commanders, ever. But I say, hey, he is the big, tall son of a bitch that can sling it. Well, they cut Cole Kelly. And he may be back eventually. But they cut Cole Kelly. Bryce Notree at linebacker, cut him. Tyrese Robinson, offensive lineman, moved on from him. And Jaquiz Ezzard was a guy that I was intrigued by as potentially a punt returner. Didn't think he was going to make the football team, but you just never know. He got injured they released him with an injury designation and waived him, so he's no longer here either. So all of these things happened post-Saturday practice. After the practice on Saturday, the aforementioned Ron Rivera presser took place. Carson Wentz stepped up to the mic and podium, and so did Terry McLaurin. Ron, as I mentioned, talked about the various things. I thought Ron, that was probably one of his best pressers of the camp period to this point. I thought that he was very concise in explaining everything, all the questions that were asked. And there were some tough ones in there, ones that, could get under your skin. Thought he handled those well. He didn't go on one of those, patented Ron Rivera rants where, he either asks for the fans or the media to forget the past, or, he was like, look, I get it. He's been up and down, but here's why, and we've talked about these reasons, and so Ron was like, bro, we don't even have enough dudes to kind of do some of the things that we want to do. Like, we got to go out on these streets. It's rough right now. So he's like, you put De'Ami Brown, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, and Jahan Dotson all out of the field. He's like, it's a 4x4 relay. It's a 4x100 sprint team out there you putting on the field. And then you take those guys off the field, and now you're throwing in Cam Sims and some different size targets, and it changes everything. You put the offensive line out there, and they're getting bowled back, and you got all these different guys shuffling in and out. We don't want him breaking his hand on a follow-through, So he went through all of the different things like, we just got to build rapport with these dudes. And he talked about some of the injuries and how it impacts practice and things of that nature. And I thought it was a really good presser by Ron Rivera. Carson Wentz talked about, the inconsistency, and he was like, look, I'm still working through a lot of things, man. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to be sharper, you want to be better, but there are a lot of moving parts, but we're getting there, and I feel good about where we are in the process, and all the things that you're supposed to say this time of the year. He said that. I like Carson Wentz a lot. I like his approach to the game mentally. He talked about how much fun it is going through this process because everything is new for him. You don't want to keep going through new shit every year, right? But to have to switch different offenses, to have to meet all of these people and kind of acclimate yourself and integrate yourself to a team that was already established. It's not the easiest thing to do, but he's done it before, and he's enjoying the process of having to do it again. And again, he's looking to put roots down. He's looking to make this the last stop. So you're hoping that he can do that. The only thing that's going to do that is his play on the field. But some of the steps that need to be taken before you can have that synchronicity on the field is getting to know these guys off the field, because you have to trust the guy in front of you, the 5 guys in front of you, the guy that's backing up one of those 5 guys. You got to trust him too. You got to trust the guy you're throwing the football to. You got to trust that running back is going to put his body on the line to protect you that extra fraction of a second that you need to drive that football 27 yards down the field for that completion. You got to trust that guy is going to do whatever it takes to get it done. And a guy that knows who you are as a person, that trusts you, that is willing to go to war, that guy's going to put it out on the line for you. He's going to do everything he can. You don't want any doubts. You think just because it's their job that they're going to go out and do a great job. But these are humans we're talking about. You remember Any Given Sunday when the team quit on Willie Beeman, right? Jamie Foxx. He thought he could do it by himself. He told them, hey, y'all want to block for me? F y'all. I got this. I do this shit by myself. And they just let dudes come tear his ass up. If I don't rock with you like that, I'm not going to kill myself to try to get to that blitzing linebacker to take him out of the play, to give you that second you need to throw the football. If he crushes Carson, it is what it is. I'll get him next time. This is why these relationships are important. So he's building all of those things. He's talking about doing that. There's a lot there, that I find fascinating, that he himself finds fascinating. And, he's talking about getting on the same page, not just with the players, but also with Scott Turner. He's getting more comfortable with Carson, what he's capable of, the things he likes to do, and the looks he likes. And keep in mind also, and this is, another little caveat, they're not game planning for anything. And Wentz brought that up several times. Like, we're not game planning for the defense. They're throwing different looks at us. We have no idea what's coming, and we just have to adjust to it on the fly. And you're doing it with, guys that aren't ultimately going to be there come the regular season, hoping that they get open so that you can throw them the football so you can get rid of it, like Armani Rogers. So I hate to keep picking on Armani Rogers. Poor Armani Rogers. He's done nothing wrong other than have an opportunity fall in his lap due to all the injuries. And I keep calling his name, but that's the truth of the matter, as a wise man likes to say. Terry talked about the love that he's getting from the fans and the relationship that he's building with Carson, and, the trust factor there, and how they're, slowly but surely getting to where they need to be. Like Terry's like, sometimes it's on me, and I come back and tell him, hey, I came out of that too quickly. And then other times it's on Carson, and, they kind of, and Carson talked about this too. Like, the beauty of it is we're getting all of this on film so that we can go back, sit down, and assess what went down, and then we can have conversations and talk about what you saw here, what the defense was doing, why you did what you did, why I did what I did. Now we can start to come to some kind of understanding so that in the future, we're on the same page. And that's why it is important, whether it's an interception, an incompletion, a completion, whatever the case may be, it's important that it take place now, so that it doesn't necessarily take place in September, October, November, into December, and hopefully into January and February. So let's get to Monday's practice. Had a day off Sunday. Returned to the practice field today. No pads on practice today. And let's start with who was at practice and who wasn't participating. So you heard the laundry list for Saturday's practice. Monday's practice, not as long a list, still significant enough. But Cole Turner still out with the hamstring injury. Curtis Hodges, I talked about him being added to the list of the laundry list of tight ends who have been out. He's out of practice today. Trapp continues to be out. Don't know what's going on with him, but he continues to be out. Cornelius Lucas continues to work his way back from whatever was preventing him from starting camp on time. Sadiq Charles continues to be out. And William Jackson III. Hopefully, and again, my understanding of every injury that we're talking about, none of them have real significance to them right now. So this is the same thing that happened to William Jackson III last year. Everything that is being done right now with every single one of these players that have been out, it's just being very precautious right now. Precautionary measures are being taken. Rather be safe than sorry this time of the year. Back at practice, Dyami Brown. Now, he was out there. He was moving around. I want to see what happens when they put the pads back on. Is he back out? Because it's one thing to be out there in some individual drills, maybe a couple of team periods, but there are no pads on. It's another thing when the pads are on and there's physicality, and as I like to say, the threat of violence. So I want to see what happens when the pads go back on. Is Dyami Brown still out there? But it's good to hear that he was not on the side field, but rather participating in practice. John Bates, that might be the biggest name that was back at practice today. I mean, I'm listening to John Keim's podcast, and he does a daily update after practice, and it's very informative, and I appreciate John Keim and his podcast. Shout out to John Keim for holding the kid down. He talked about a play in particular at practice where they were able to run the football because Bates was out there, and he's like, right now, John Bates is head and shoulders above anybody else at the tight end position as a blocker. It's not close. He's our best blocking tight end. And obviously, when he wasn't in the lineup Friday, when we had our goal line period, we struggled. And it's not just because he wasn't there. It's because we were on our 5th, 6th, 7th tight ends who aren't well-versed in blocking. There was no Sammy Reyes. There was no John Bates. You know, and hell, even Cole Turner, who's still working as a blocker, wasn't even available. Well, he was back, and there was one particular play John talked about where Montez Sweat, who has been destroying practice all camp long, was trying to get to the ball carrier. And not only did John Bates get in great position to block him, but he actually was able to turn his ass in the hole, seal Montez Sweat off, and create an opening for the back to get up to the second level. And that's something they haven't seen since Bates essentially, along with Sammy Reyes, got injured in practice and with hamstrings and haven't been able to practice. So it's significant that he was back at practice today. And then I think one of the biggest topics, you know, I don't want to talk about it too much, but Curtis Samuel practiced 2 days in a row. Now, 2 days in a row isn't literally 2 days in a row. Obviously, there was an off day in between, and I think that's why he ultimately practiced again. But 2 practices in a row, we got Curtis Samuel. And haven't been able to say that. You know, you get him on the practice on Saturday, and he comes back and he practices again on Monday. Now, Ron, after practice today, said, look, don't look for Curtis the next couple of days now. All right. Like we about to, you know, we revved him up a bit. Now we about to wind that engine down. Okay. He'll be back on the side field, getting in his work over there, stretching with the trainers, you know, getting some work over there. But don't be alarmed. This is a part of the plan. Okay. I trust you. Okay. So that was another, you know, noteworthy name at practice. But I want to have some conversations about some guys, and then I want to have a conversation. I like to do this after every practice. Generally, I like to pick a position, talk about the back end, because we've talked about this roster already and how we feel like most of the roster spots are spoken for. But at particular positions, the back end, there's competition. We talked about the final receiver spot, you know, which is punt, kick returner essentially, but the final receiver spot, that 6th and final spot. We talked about that already. We talked about the back end of the tight end room. And, you know, the big question mark looming over the position is, will Logan Thomas be back in time for the start of the regular season? There is chatter that I'm hearing. And I'm seeing him work at practice. I've seen clips of him working at practice. He's getting close. How close? I don't know. That's the thing I can't tell you. But he's getting close. The conversation has been around mid to late August. Clearly, they have to make a decision by late August because you got to decide, am I going to put this guy on the PUP list or not? But again, his situation is going to determine whether one of these guys gets an opportunity at the back end of that tight end room. If he's ready to rock and roll week 1, then there's no conversation to be had. We know who the 3 tight ends are, and if there's a 4th, we think that it's one of 2 guys, and we keep it pushing. But if he's not available and he's on the PUP list, or he's not available and you got to bring another guy up, then there's a conversation to be had. So we've talked about that. We talked about the safety position, and we've looked at some of those guys, right? Now I want to, and I think we might have talked about defensive tackle. I think we talked about that. I want to talk about the cornerback position today. We'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about some individual players real quick. Dax Milne continues to stand out at practice. I've said this already. I think I even said this tonight. I've said it in the past. I'm going to say it once more. I think it's his job to lose that 6th and final wide receiver spot. It's his job to lose. Or as Ron likes to say, it's his job to win. You don't want to put the negative connotation on it. Fine. It's his job to win. All he's got to do is continue to do what he's done in camp in these preseason games. All he's got to do is look like a competent return man. Look, 95% of the league isn't returning kickoffs anyway. There's only a small percentage of guys that actually impact games with kickoff returns. Most of the guys are back there just holding their arms out and letting the shit bounce into the end zone and getting the ball at 25. And that's what teams are instructed. Look, if you know you can get it back to the 27 or the 30, go ahead and knock yourself out. But there's only a handful of guys that have the green light. We had a guy last year that had the green light. He's gone. He's now a member of the Los Angeles Chargers. Dax Milne is not that guy. So the punts, I think, are the main thing. I don't think he's explosive or dynamic. So I don't expect him to do anything that's going to, get me out of my seat, right? I just need to make sure that you field the damn punt at this point. We've gone through seasons where we couldn't even get guys that could catch the damn thing. So at this point, yeah, I'd love to see him pop one for 37 yards, which Alex Erickson has a proven track record. You know what Alex Erickson also has a proven track record of doing? Fumbling. We said the same thing about DeAndre Carter. He only fumbled twice last year, and we didn't lose either one of them. We almost did, but we didn't lose either one of them. Alex Erickson has a track record of fumbling the football. So that's something to be careful with and something to keep in the back of your mind. But I think Dax Milne adds more to this group. His versatility, being able to play every single position, what he's done in camp, what they felt about him when they drafted him last year, and him, remember, he made the team last year, and then him being, I just see him being here again. So Danny Johnson. Let's talk about Danny Johnson real quick. William Jackson III did not practice. I just talked about that. Who was the first guy in? That's important because, and we're about to have a cornerback. I'm going to segue, seamlessly right into the cornerback conversation. But I'm going to start with Danny Johnson because I'm a Danny Johnson fan, right? So Danny Johnson was the first guy off the bench in William Jackson III's absence because we know who the first three corners are. We'll talk about that here in a second. But it's interesting to see, okay, what do they do when William Jackson III is not available? Well, the logical choice is to take Benjamin St-Juste, move him outside, slide Danny Johnson inside, which is what they did. Good for them, okay? Understanding what's going on here. And so what that tells me is they're starting to value what Danny Johnson brings to the table. And I like what I saw from Danny Johnson, not just in the Green Bay game and in spot duty last year during the regular season. I like what I saw from Danny Johnson in the preseason last year. So I think there's a greater appreciation for Danny Johnson. And I consider him a lock. I've always considered him a lock because I told you I'm a lot higher on Danny Johnson than most. But I think with William Jackson III being out and him getting the reps, I think it somewhat solidifies that this guy is going to make this football team. So now I want to have that cornerback conversation because the first three spots are absolute stone cold lead pipe locks. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Kendall Fuller, Benjamin St-Juste, William Jackson III. There's not a conversation to be had. Just like at the receiver position, we know 4 spots, absolutely stone cold lead pipe locks at the receiver position. I think it's probably 5, but for sure, like there's no conversation to be had. 4 guys are definitely making this football team at receiver. Same can be said at the cornerback position. There's 3 dudes. I think it's really 4. Just like I like to add in Cam Sims at the receiver position, even though he's not technically a stone cold lead pipe lock. I like to add him in there because he's going to make the football team. I like to do the same thing with Danny Johnson. He's not a stone cold lead pipe lock, but I like to add him in there because I know he's making his football team. Who is making the team after Danny Johnson is anybody's guess. And honestly, I think there are 2 dudes, probably 3, but 2 guys in particular. And we'll see a little bit more as we get into the preseason. But I think there are 2 guys fighting for 1 spot. Now, you could keep 6 corners. But what's the likelihood that you keep 6 receivers and 6 corners? It's not very likely, okay? The likelihood is you keep 10 DBs total, 5 safeties, 5 corners. That's generally how that goes. And you're already using one of those on Trap, right? Who is technically a corner. So if you want to say we're keeping 6 corners, knock yourself out. Go right ahead. But whatever you call Trap, he's on the roster, right? I don't see them keeping another guy outside of Trap is what I'm saying. So that's still 5 guys. So you got 4, as I already mentioned. Who's going to be the 5th guy? Well, right now, I think it's Corn Elder's job to win. He was here last year. He's familiar with Ron Rivera. He's a guy that knows the scheme. He's a veteran, even though he's still relatively young at like 26, 27 years old. So he's not super old. So there's a lot going for Corn Elder, and he's actually, by all accounts, had a really solid camp to this point. But there's always something about these young fellas. There's an intrigue. There's an upside, especially when you drafted that guy. Whether he's a 7th-round pick or not, who gives a shit? We drafted this kid. We're going to give him every opportunity because who knows? We may have just drafted another Cam Curl in the 7th round and Christian Holmes. So he's been having a relatively strong camp as well. So now there's a real conversation to be had about who's going to get that final cornerback spot. And to me, these games are going to tell the story. But it's a position worth watching. We've talked about the depth at corner. We've talked about, all right, what happens if this happens? In this scenario, how many guys can we trust? I think we're getting to a point now where we trust 4 guys. I can't speak for you. I trust 4 guys. The 4 guys that I've already told you about. Can there be a 5th guy in the mix that I trust, potentially in Christian Holmes or Corn Elder? 2 guys, 1 spot. I don't see all 6 of those guys making the football team. 2 guys, 1 spot. And they've signed other guys, Devontae Busby. They signed a couple of guys from the USFL. They're going to get their opportunity in these preseason games as well to show up and show out. And maybe it expands the conversation. Maybe we add another name in that we weren't talking about before the preseason got kicked off. We'll see. But right now, I think those 2 guys are vying for 1 spot, the back end of the cornerback position. And I'm anxious to see who steps up and solidifies that final cornerback spot as we start to try to crystallize the back end of the roster. Ron Rivera spoke again after practice today. We heard from Sam Cosmi and Jamin Davis. Really not much to take from Sam Cosmi other than he's continuing to grow as a football player, making some mistakes, but it's helping him grow. We've heard about some of the battles he's had in practice one-on-one against Montez Sweat, and that's continuing to help him grow and develop. Ron talked about some of the moves they made and why they made, specifically the Nathan Gary move. He talked about, the importance of getting bodies out here for practice. It's tough to run practice the way you want. Talked about Curtis Samuel practicing again, and look, he's about to go back on the side field. Don't be alarmed. This is part of the plan. So he talked about all of those things and talked about the development of the offense, how they're coming along, and he thinks that they're, moving along at a good rate, rate of speed. So Jamin Davis is who I want to focus in on, because Jamin, I got this sense from him last year too, even though there was less of this. He's been on 10 this entire offseason in terms of his confidence. It's sky high. You listen to him talk and you're like, oh yeah, this mother effer is nice. Don't be fooled, okay, by the mouthpiece. I need him to go out and do it. But how many times have you heard Jamin Davis say, I'm ready to play Jamin Davis football? First of all, I'm not a fan of talking in the third person. Okay. that bothers me when people talk in the third person. But if you're gonna talk in the third person, you better be nice. Okay. If you're gonna be talking in the third person, you better be effing nice. You better be ready to back that shit up. I'm not there with him yet. So I need him to tone that third person shit down. But he's like, yo, I'm 10 times ahead of where I was last year in terms of where I am comfort-wise and understanding what's going on. And he's like, this man didn't say I'm ready to go out here and be a Pro Bowl linebacker. The man said, I'm ready to go out here and be the all-pro linebacker I know I can be. Excuse me? You just said what? So I'm loving the confidence. I've talked about athletic arrogance. When it comes to these athletes, you only make it this far to the highest levels of your particular sport by being arrogant athletically. You have to have that mindset that, hey, I'm the nicest dude out here, man. Can't nobody F with me. When I'm doing my shit, when I'm doing it to the best of my abilities, ain't nobody nicer than me. I love it. But you better make sure you back that shit up with your play on the field. And he's like, look, I'm ready to make some splash plays out here. I'm ready to you out here to turn some heads. I'm ready to do what I do best. So, all right, Jamin, you up. And I believe in him. You guys know, I told you guys, and I've said this on various programs, I'm looking for a big season from Jamin Davis. I think he's ready to break out because they simplified the game. When a guy has that much talent, that much speed and athleticism, don't clutter his mind. Free him, okay? Have him point and chase. Go get him. Done, okay? Don't bog this man down with 18 different responsibilities. Point, tell him go get him and let him and turn him loose. So I'm looking forward to that this year. And it starts on Saturday against the Carolina Panthers. I want to see what Jamin Davis is out here doing. So anyway, I got to see it to believe it, but I believe in Jamin. All right. I believe in Jamin Davis. So that is the wrap up from the last two practices. All the things that have been said, some of the transactions that have been made, you know, some of the overreactions and, you know, some of that shit getting under my skin and me having to get that off my chest. I feel so much better now. It's like I just released a lot of venom just now and it's out of my system. And now I can go back to the Zen-like state that I've been in when it comes to this offense and everything that I think they're capable of in the upcoming season. So I want to get to some of your comments now, and we'll see what happens moving forward and whether this offense, this defense, I think the thing that I've been hearing is that the defense has been dominant. How much of that is the offense not being all that great? How much of that is the defense, you know, just being ahead of the offense and taking advantage of that? Or how much is that the defense actually getting better? Like, you know, it's okay to actually believe that the defense is getting better. I'm going to tell you right now, I need to see the shit. I don't, after what they did to me last year, and I wasn't one of those, we're going to be a top 5 defense people last year. I wasn't one of those fans because I knew the quarterback schedule that we were facing was going to force us to take a step back from our ranking the year previous. However, I was one of those people that said, I think that this is going to be a great test for us, a test that we will pass. It won't be with flying colors, but we will pass this test. We will get through the Bradys and the Russell Wilsons and the Aaron Rodgers and the Josh Allens and the Justin Herberts of the world and the Matt Ryans. We will get through these quarterbacks and we will come out on the other side better because of it. And yeah, we'll be ranked 11th in the league in defense, but you know what? That's on a curve. We went through an AP course in the 11th grade and we got a C. That's like an A in an honors class. So that's how I thought we were going to come out of last year. No. We took an AP course and we got a D-. Like we barely can say we passed the shit. And what it proved was that, hey, you ain't ready for college courses yet. Maybe you should be taking honors instead of AP courses. Maybe that's better. That's a little bit more your speed. Maybe you shouldn't even be in honors classes. Maybe you need regular classes. I'm not 100% sold on the defense, but what I can tell you is that the pieces that we have defensively have been here for multiple years. There aren't many guys that have just come in here having to learn something, and so you don't quite know. Other than Percy Butler, as a guy that we are probably going to be relying on at some point this season, the other 10 guys defensively across the defensive line, at the linebacker position, the 2 guys playing there, and then the 5 guys on the back end stands for Percy Butler. And if you wanted to sub out Percy Butler and insert a Jeremy Reeves or insert a Derek Forrest, those guys have been here. But outside of that, all of these guys have been here. This defense can actually say, we've got continuity. We got skin in the game. We've gone through the bumps in the road, okay? We've hit the hurdles, the lack of communication. The thing I've been hearing all camp is that they're communicating at high levels, the likes of which we haven't seen in Washington in ages. That's what I'm hearing about Kendall Fuller, about William Jackson III, about Cam Curl, about Benjamin Sage. They're communicating in that back end, okay? That's what I'm hearing about Bobby McCain. They're on one accord. Okay, I believe you. I just need to see it. But again, looking at the quarterbacks that we're going to face this year, and you look at everything that's being put in front of us, why can't we take advantage of some opportunities? Why can't this defense get back to the way it was in 2020? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. I want to thank each and every single one of y'all for rocking with me tonight. I know Mondays isn't usually our thing, so I appreciate all of y'all coming out and kicking it with the kid tonight. Let's see. Got a super chat here to kick us off tonight from King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, King of the North, writes, let's keep it real. Okay, let's keep it real. Wentz has always had accuracy issues and always held the ball too long. It doesn't mean he's going to suck. He's here to get the ball down the field and get defenses out of single high safety looks. Those are facts. He's always been a guy that has looked to hit the home run, which is why he's held on to the ball a lot longer. He's always been a guy that has, had the ball sail on him from time to time, not always been the most accurate. Throughout his career, he's been a 63, 64% completion percentage guy, which is fine. It's not great. You'd like that guy to be closer to 70%, in that 68 range, 67, 68, 69 range. But he's always been hovering right around 63, 64, 65, somewhere in that tier. As long as you're not close to the 50s. You start your career there, right? Your rookie season, you're 57%. That's okay. It happens. All right. That second year, all right, I need you to eclipse 60%. It can be 61, but fine. I need you to eclipse 60%, and I need you to stay there. I need you to never go back under 50 or 60 again. And for the most part, he's done that in his career. He's been a 63, 64, like I said, completion percentage guy. So it's not great. And some of that is his fault because instead of him taking the check down, he's holding on to it too long, and then he's either having to throw it away or he's forcing it and it's incomplete or it's almost picked off, and the check down's there. And so, that's part of the maturation process too, of getting to the check down. If it's not there, get it to the check down. So we'll see if he can, maybe get to the check down more, teach an old dog a new trick a little bit later on in his career. I remember Tony Romo never liking to hit the check down and him getting towards the mid to latter portion of his career and him all of a sudden starting to find DeMarco Murray underneath, starting to hit Ezekiel Elliott and starting to find the check down. It can happen, right? It can happen. So I don't know if Romo ever really played with Ezekiel Elliott. I think Elliott and Dak came that same year. So I remember him hitting DeMarco Murray on those checkdowns, and all of a sudden the check down became a real thing, and he became a better quarterback because of it. So maybe Wentz can do that too. But to your point, those have always been knocks on him. Holds on to it too long, not the most accurate at times. But like you said, he was brought here for his strong arm, for his ability to push the football vertically, for him to get teams out of that, single high safety look, add an extra defender to the box, or if they don't add an extra defender to the box, the doubling and the tripling of Terry, bracket coverage for Terry, trying to take him away and force, the rest of the team to beat us. He's brought here to be able to make some of those throws that other guys aren't capable of making, So we'll see if he can do that consistently for us or not. We'll see if he can hit that deep ball that we keep talking about. We're fantasizing about it because it hasn't been a part of this offense in quite some time. So we're fantasizing about shots down the field, and you keep hearing Terry McLaurin and guys talk about getting more opportunities down the field with Carson Wentz, that he's going to give them opportunities and chances and that they need to make him right. So we'll see if that's ultimately what takes place or not. But to your point, these have been knocks on Carson Wentz's entire career. We assume, I don't like to assume, what they say about when you assume, but the likelihood is that these will continue to be knocks on Carson Wentz. We just want to minimize the mistakes, maximize and highlight his strengths, and you get the most out of what, we feel like he brings to the table. And that is the job of one Scott Turner, to figure out what Wentz likes, what he doesn't like, to figure out what he excels at, what he doesn't, and minimize those types of looks and reads, and to put him in positions to succeed. We got enough, talent and guys that you can get the football to that it's not that hard. It shouldn't be that complex. So we'll see what happens. Thank you for that super chat, King of the North. Great points there. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Trev, writes, "Hey, Lou. What's up, Trev?" He says, "I'm back. Have we discussed letting go of Samuel Davis Mills III for rookie positional coach and commander sack leader Ryan Kerrigan? Why not learn from the best instead of just the film?" Look, I told you earlier in the show that the Washington Commanders content side of things has been outstanding since Julie Donaldson has taken over. She's done a lot of creative things, and they've got other people involved in the aesthetics in terms of what we see on the YouTube channel and all the content that we're getting. But Julie Donaldson has been, most part, in control of a lot of that stuff. And I think she's done a masterful job to this point. And so we've gotten a lot of mic'd ups. We've gotten a lot of behind the scenes, the draft thing that I talked about. They had another thing like where they were chronicling some of the things that happened in the offseason leading training camp. So there's been a lot of content, a lot of that stuff that if you're a fan, it keeps you engaged, right? Makes you feel a little bit closer to the team and some of these players. You get a behind the scenes look at these guys because, again, they're humans. At the end of the day, a lot of people treat these guys like they're machines and they're robots. And the only thing they're supposed to do is work on their craft. You shouldn't go home and have fun, spend time with your family. You should be in your book studying your playbook. Man, shut up. So these dudes are humans. They have fun. They like to keep it light at practice, and so it's fun to see Ryan Kerrigan at practice, a dude that a lot of these players play with, that they trust, that they can let their guard down, as they call him RK. And, Jonathan Allen, my favorite soundbite with Ryan Kerrigan being mic'd up was him coming over to John Allen, and they had a conversation. Allen is asking him, what you doing in the offseason? You've been playing golf, this, that, and the third. And he was like, "Yo, how many sacks you had last year, man? Did you get to 10? He was like, "Man, I had 9.5. He's like, "I had 9.5. Like, I was this close. I had a sack at the end of the game, the last game of the season. I had the sack, and I missed it." He was pissed, okay? Jay Allen wanted that dime, man. He wanted that dime bad. And I don't know if that was, I just missed out on the extra $1 million or $500,000 bonus. Because, those incentives are in the contract. You get double-digit sacks. You hit 10 sacks. There's an escalator that kicks in, and you get an extra, X amount of dollars. So he might have had that. He was talking like a man that was pissed off that he missed out on an opportunity for an extra $750,000 or an extra $1.5 million. But I like hearing that, man. And Jonathan was pissed off. He was mad about that. Like, shit, I can't believe I missed that stat in that Giants game. So guys they be knowing their stats and they know what they playing for, man. Don't get it twisted. You think that week 18 game against the Giants is meaningless? It may be for the purposes of making the playoffs, but some of these, like, I think one of the biggest reasons that Bobby McCain is here is the man had 2 picks in that Giants game, including the pick 6. Like, if they were on the fence about Bobby McCain, that game solidified it. Like, okay, Bobby's starting to get into his pocket. We like him. Let's bring him back. So, guys padding the stats, getting to incentives and things, escalators, things of that nature. You hear about those things, but in all seriousness, he dapped up Sam Mills III. And, Sam Mills was really excited to see him. You know why? And I was thinking when he dapped him up, I was thinking the exact same thing. Not necessarily he should replace him, but I'm like, you got RK here in the flesh. You don't have to show them film. There he is. Have at him right there. Go ask him everything you want to ask him. And so it was good having him around. And, whether he decides this is what he wants to do in terms of coaching or not, I wish him nothing but the best. Love Ryan Kerrigan, despite some of you thinking I don't. I love Ryan Kerrigan. He was a great ambassador for this football team. At a time where we didn't have shit else, we had Ryan Kerrigan. So I appreciate what he brought to the table. And it's good seeing him, good having him out at practice. And I think, it boosted the morale of a lot of those guys who hadn't seen him since he left last season. So Curtis Samuel isn't going anywhere. He's going to be good for us this year. I'm telling y'all right now. Anyway, I digress. What are y'all doing, man? What are y'all doing? Okay. I cannot with y'all. My ass stank. Thank you for the super chat. And you only did that to get me to say it. I can't with y'all, man. Oh, man. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, writes. Lou. How am I supposed to be serious when I'm staring at the comment and it says my ass stank? Anyway, you plan on going to any games this year? No. The answer is no right now. Now, that's subject to change. I am a season ticket holder, and at any point I can decide, yeah, I want to go to this game. But the likelihood is, I told you guys when I got the tickets for you guys. I didn't get them for me. Now, maybe in the future, and this is my hope, that at some point we can restore the order here in Washington and bring the prestige back to this organization. As long as Daniel Snyder's here, that's not happening. So that's a pipe dream, more likely than not. But anyway, in my mind, you tell yourself things to try to convince yourself that this is a good investment. Other than, hey, I want to give back to y'all. Y'all do so much for me. Here's my way of giving back to you guys, which is the main reason I did it. But also in the back of my mind, I'm like, once upon a time, in a land not long ago, feels like an eternity, Washington Redskin season tickets were impossible to get. There was a waiting list, like 80,000 fans long. And there were people on that waiting list that thought they would eventually perish and expire before they would hear their name called to get their season tickets. That was once upon a time. Okay. Clearly, that is not where the fan base is. Now that is not where the season ticket situation is. I don't know if it'll ever get back to that point. Probably not. But I said, what if Carson Wentz comes in here, steers this ship in the right direction? Rivera does what I think he's capable of doing, which is turning this team into a triple P. We start winning games every year. the fan base is alive and thriving again. And all of a sudden we get a new stadium, and the new stadium is legit. It's lit and you want to be there. They build it in a great location. That's more than likely not going to happen. But these are all the things I said in my head. What if? I would like to already have my season tickets in tow and be out in front of that train before everyone else wants to get on. That's what I said to myself. That shit's not happening. Who are we kidding? I'm not kidding my damn self. But I said all of that to say this. Right now, no, I'm not going to any games. The plan is not to go into any games. It's to make sure that you guys get to go to all these home games. As a matter of fact, we got to give away some tickets this week. And I was going to do that on Wednesday to the preseason game against Carolina. I think I'm going to start that tomorrow on the video tomorrow, and I'll lay out the parameters for that on the video tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. If you're a member of the MOBB, make sure you tune in to tomorrow's show. Follow directions. I tried to give away the tickets to the practice on Saturday. You guys did not follow directions. So you followed the first part of it. And I told you guys, I said, at some point, I'm going to need your email. I'm not going to ask for your email in the comment section of a public video. So you're going to have to get to me via email, or you're going to have to get to me. And I left my email under all the comments that requested tickets. Nobody got back to me. So I'm not going to have any problems with this, because this went seamlessly last year. I didn't have any issues with the tickets that I did give away. So I imagine that this will be a similar process this year. But I think tomorrow on the video, I will give the directions as to what you have to do. Obviously, the prerequisite is you have to be a member of the mob, right? And follow those directions. We'll have the drawing on Thursday, and I'll look to give those tickets away before Saturday's game. So stay tuned for that. But no, I don't plan on going to any games. Thank you for the super chat. My ass stank. I can't. Let's see. Got another super chat. This one is from Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Damn Twin Shorty Sublime. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I saw your throwback video on Nathan Gary. I don't know about y'all, but he ain't exactly what I had in mind in signing a veteran linebacker. I would rather see 26 back in there. I hope they ain't done looking at LBs. I'm going to tell you right now, that's probably the extent of what they're going to do now. They may add a young linebacker after a series of cuts, but this is the veteran, right, that they were thinking about. And I, like you, I'm not head over heels in love with signing Nathan Gary. Clearly, they're done with Landon Collins. And I think a lot of that stems from, and keep in mind that they were willing to keep Landon Collins. They had asked him to take a pay cut. He agreed initially. And so they were willing to keep Landon Collins. This was not, oh, we got to get rid of Landon. He doesn't fit our culture. We need to move on from him. You know, there was definitely mutual interest between the two parties of him being back on the roster this year. And then the Carson Wentz trade happened, and they went back to him again and asked him to take a second pay cut. And he was like, come on, bro. Now y'all really testing me. Just cut me, and I'll get my money elsewhere. And he hasn't gotten his money elsewhere yet. But I don't think they love the fact that he viewed himself as a safety and that didn't embrace, you know, being a linebacker, so to speak. So they've gone in a different direction. I, like you, I think 85-90% of the fan base would prefer them to just go sign Landon Collins and call it a day. Like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this song and dance? But we don't know what Landon's agenda is. We don't know what he's asking for. We don't know if they've reached out to him and he said, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And they're like, nah, we're not looking to give you that much. We don't know what the situation is. So anyway, Nathan Gary is nothing more than a Band-Aid. At the end of the day, my hope is, just like I've said at numerous positions, I hope we never see him. I said the same thing about Sam Howell. I hope I never see him on the field playing meaningful snaps for the Burgundy and Gold. I feel the same way about Nathan Gary. I hope I never see him on the field playing meaningful snaps for this football team. If he is in the game, something has gone wrong. Not horribly wrong, because all it would take is one injury for him to find the field. But something has gone wrong, or they don't believe in Jamin Davis. You know, something has gone wrong, or they don't believe in Jamin Davis. So let's hope that he doesn't have to see the field. And let's hope he just remains depth. Trevor Patch, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy Trev writes, I didn't go to practice. Ron isn't Gibbs. He mocks the fan base instead of imploring the fans to come out. I'll be there for the good guys on game day. I don't think he mocks the fan base. I've never gotten that sense from Ron. Here's what I think he makes the mistake of consistently doing over and over again. He's asking something of the fan base that he couldn't ask of himself if he were just a fan and he put himself in our shoes. He's looking at it from the lens and the prism of an ex-player and a coach that's like, hey, I don't have anything to do with what's happened in the past. I can only control what I've done since I've gotten here and what happens moving forward. And that's what I want you to judge us on. And that's a fair ask, right? You can ask us, but you can't expect us to just forget, ignore, suppress all of the shit that we've dealt with as fans for the better part of 2 decades with Daniel Snyder as the owner. You can't ask us to not remember that. That's not an easy thing to do. It's impossible. So instead of you continuing to beg and plead with us to forget the past and live in the present, how about you say, hey, I acknowledge that it's been tough. It's been a tough road for you guys. And we understand that there's been a lot of damage done to this fan base. And all he keeps saying is, I remember what it was like. You remember what it was like 30, 40 years ago when the place was rocking at RFK. That's not what FedEx Field has ever been. So you have to stop talking about what this used to be. This fan base has been crippled and brought to its knees. It's a shell of what it used to be. So instead of you continuing to talk about yesteryear, as if that was just 7 years ago. No, try 37 years ago. Instead of talking about that, how about just saying, I know that this fan base has a rich history. They love football, which he said. They love football. Most importantly, they love and they deserve a winner. Haven't had that, and I haven't done a good enough job since I've gotten here of producing that, even though when I got here, this was a 3-13 team. And in the first year here, we won 7 games. Now, I was hoping to take a step further the next year, but we won 7 again. But I'm ready to take that next step. And we need y'all to come out and support us as we try to take that next step. And we know the only way that we're going to get you guys on our side is to win. But in the meantime, while we're trying to get to that point, while we're changing the culture and we're trying to get there, if you could find it in your heart to come out and support us, we'd greatly appreciate that. Because at the end of the day, we know that winning is going to bring you guys out in droves. But you know what would be nice is if you support us to help us win, to bring more of you guys out. So I get where he's coming from, but at the end of the day, you can't ask us as fans to just forget 25 years of having the snot beaten out of us as fans, having our identity stripped from us. We're no longer the Redskins, okay? For most of us, that's all we've ever known Well, that was stripped of us, taken away from us. Okay. And not to mention you're losing pretty badly. We've chronicled this. I don't need to keep opening those old wounds. So I don't think he's demeaning the fan base. I think he is not taking into consideration what it's like to be a fan. He's so far removed from being a fan himself. Pretty sure he was a fan of the 49ers or some team out in the Bay Area, the Raiders or something like that. Probably a Raiders fan, if I had to guess, being that he grew up out in the Bay Area. Probably a Raiders fan growing up. He's so far removed from being a fan, having been a player for a decade, then a coach, probably for the next 25, 30 years. He's so far removed from being a fan that he can't understand the plight of what it means to be a Washington Redskins / football team / Commanders fan. So that to me is an ask that is just way too, I think it's an egregious ask of a fan. What he should be doing is saying, hey, here's what we're going to try and do. And we would love your support in our attempt to do this. And whether you come out or not, we're going to make you guys proud. And we know winning it cures all. And that'll be the thing that really brings you guys out. But you know what? On this journey to turn this thing around, we'd love it if you come out and support us. We need y'all out there. We need y'all energy. We feed off of y'all energy. Try that instead of saying, hey, don't judge us on what happened in the past. Judge us on. No. We have to judge you on what happened in the past. That's part of our identity as a fan of this organization. Anyway, let's see. Landry Balbin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Landry Balbin. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB rights. Louie, I don't know if it's just me, but I am rooting for Harmon. I want him to get another chance. Do you think his career is over at this point? I don't know if I can say his career is over. I can tell you that I don't think he'll get another opportunity here. I don't think he'll get another opportunity here. Now, here's the thing. When we released him, nobody else even gave him a sniff. So I'm thinking if it doesn't work here, it won't work anywhere for him. I look at him like I looked at Jordan Matthews, receiver that the Eagles took in the mid rounds out of Vandy, that I thought had a promising NFL career. Was one of Carson Wentz's best friends when he was in Philadelphia. Got injured. Didn't work in Philadelphia. Same thing that happened to Harmon. He got off to a good start in Philadelphia, got injured, and was never the same. Fell out of favor. They ultimately moved on from him. He ended up in San Francisco because all it takes is for one person to believe in you. And I think the one guy that believed in him was Kyle Shanahan. Like, hey, I think this kid can actually play. So they tried to convert him to tight end this offseason, and he tore his ACL. And he's done for the season. I think his career is done, honestly. That was his last chance. I look at Kelvin Harmon in the very exact same light. I think he had a promising start to his career, tore his ACL. He was never the same, never got another opportunity. And his best bet might be to convert to tight end, but he's 213 pounds. Like, you're asking a guy to put on 30 pounds or so and play a position he's never played before. It's just not realistic. We live in this fantasy world where if a guy doesn't work at one position, hey, just convert him to this position. Well, it's not that simple. Especially, it's one thing to take a corner and convert him to safety because it doesn't require you to gain 20, 30 pounds. Same thing with a corner or a safety that could play corner. It doesn't require you to do anything drastic. moving from receiver to tight end, that's drastic if you're not already a big guy. If you're already 6'5", 230, okay, moving to tight end isn't going to be that big of a deal for you. But if you're 6'2", 213, it's a big effing deal to ask you to gain 20, 25, 30 pounds and then play a position you've never played before. I don't know if he'll ever really get another shot, honestly. And with all the moves made at the receiver position, there's no way he's cracking this group. Now, here's the only thing I can say about Kelvin Harmon, if he can just hang on long enough. This is more than likely Cam Sims' last year in Washington. Now, I say that, and if they love what he brings to the table again, and he's comfortable, and there's not a ton of opportunities out there for him around the league, he could be back on another 1-year deal. He could be back on a 2-year deal. You know, they've done a really good job of keeping guys like Cam Sims around, i.e. J.D. McKissick and Logan Thomas and those types of guys. They've done a really good job of, Charles Leno Jr. and Bobby McCain of keeping these guys around for an extra year or two. They like them. They don't necessarily love them, but they keep them around for an extra 2 or 3 years. Give them a 2-year deal. Solid money, nothing great, but enough to keep that guy around. They can do that with Cam Sims. But this is his last year in Washington for all intents and purposes. If he could hang in there, maybe, just maybe, a spot opens up and he may be able to seize that opportunity, being that he's been around for the last 3 years, or it will be 3 next year. But he's been around this group for the last 2 years and knows the system and, is continuing to grow in it. Maybe, but I'm going to be honest with you. It's not looking good for Kelvin Harmon. The fact that they added De'Ami Brown last year, the fact that they added Jahan Dotson this year, the fact that Terry just got a new deal, the fact that Curtis still has 2 years on his deal, the fact that they drafted Dax Milne, it's not looking good for Kelvin Harmon. So we'll see. I don't want to count him out, but it's not looking good for him, to be honest with you. All right. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Metaphor writes, Lou, practice was sweet. Carson was aight. No crazy bad throws and skips like the media is yapping. Oh, and we just signed wide receiver Matt Cole, returner tryout. Again, with Jaquiz Ezzard being released, I think they want to throw another body in there in the mix to return kicks. I don't think this Matt Cole guy is going to make the football team, but it's just like last year. You just want enough guys to throw at the position, because at some point, even if you've settled in on Dax Milne as that guy, you're going to yank him out of there, and you need somebody to return kicks in the preseason. And it can't just be Kyrick McGowan. What if he goes down? You need somebody else that can do it. You don't want to just be throwing random dudes back there, right? So they need more bodies that can do that. So I think that it's more about that and less about, oh man, we don't believe in Dax Milne or Alex Erickson or any of that. I think it's more about, hey, we need some more bodies back there for practice purposes, for the preseason games, things of that nature. So it's good to hear that practice was nice. It looked like, from a lot of the videos that I watched, a lot of you enjoyed yourselves at practice. And I know it wasn't as bad as a lot of people were making it out to be. That's part of the reason it pissed me off, because I'm like, it wasn't that bad. I've listened to those who were there in attendance and talked about it, and it wasn't any more inconsistent or any less exciting than what we've seen from him at camp. There were the aha and wow throws. Like, that Terry throw is still ridiculous to me. He pumps one side of the field. And that wasn't a planned pump fake. That wasn't I'm going to pump fake and draw the defense. No, he was going to throw the football. Kendall Fuller was watching him and reading it. It was going to pick the shit off. He had to literally Ben Roethlisberger that bitch, not throw it, which you got to have some huge hands to be able to hold on to the football, because he literally was about to let that go. He turns his upper torso, not his whole body. He turns his upper torso all the way to the right, sees Terry, and flings it. Go watch that play. He doesn't step into that throw. His body isn't, his lower half isn't even facing that direction. He flings it. Touchdown. Like, that's an incredible throw. You don't want him doing that shit consistently. That's the kind of shit that gets you in trouble. But that's just the talent that is Carson Wentz. The throw to Jahan Dotson in between 3 defenders, threading the needle. Are you kidding me? So I knew it wasn't as bad as they made it out to be. Was he missing some throws? Sure. But that's all a part of the timing and the rhythm and all of the different moving parts that are going on in practicing. And as King of the North said already, that's part of the Carson Wentz DNA package. He's going to miss some throws. You have to be willing to deal with that. Thank you for the super chat metaphor. Let's see. Got another super chat here from King of the North. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Double up. Thank you for doubling up, King of the North, who writes, per Warren Sharp, out of all the QBs in the NFL who have thrown at least 600 passes, Carson Wentz completion percentage ranks dead last. So, I mean, that's a significant number. 600 attempts is a good enough metric. You know, it's a good enough sample size. At the end of the day, you can look at the different factors that have to, you can take into consideration. I can tell you that he hasn't played with a great supporting cast. I can tell you that he's not the most accurate guy. That's, again, part of his DNA profile. Like, he's not the most accurate guy all the time. And a lot of that stems from fundamentals, just not always being in sync and in whack, but and being out of whack, rather. But that said, for as many, incompletions and things of that nature, there's just as many big plays in there to counteract and balance it all out. So if you're telling me that Carson Wentz is going to come here, be a 64.7% completion percentage quarterback, toss 29 touchdowns and 8 interceptions, throw for 3,933 yards, and have 8 completions of 40 yards or more, I don't really have any problems with that. I'm looking at you and saying, what's your point about the completion percentage? So, I mean, that's cool. And I told you, numbers are what they are. I'm not a massive numbers guy. There are numbers that speak to me. I've given you some of those numbers. Completion percentage is a good number, but it also comes with context. You see some guys, 73% completion percentage for a season, like Drew Brees had one year. Phillip Rivers was always hovering around. These guys are super accurate. They wasn't just a bunch of dink and dunkers, right? These guys are super accurate, but those guys also throw to the checkdowns. Those guys are also throwing a bunch of underneath throws, but again, they drive it down the field too, and they don't miss a lot of times. You got to understand what the offense is. And some of these guys, it's a lot of underneath stuff. Like in college, those numbers are inflated. You get to the NFL, there's not as many bubble screens and tunnel screens and underneath throws to really bolster that completion percentage. You're pushing the football down the field. And a guy like Carson Wentz, there are a lot of completions from him taking risks down the field. I don't have a problem with that. It's not often Wentz is going to be 27 of 34 in a ball game. Why? Because he's pushing the football down the field. No risk it, no biscuit. I'm okay with that. I'll take 21 of 35. Okay? I'll take 21 of 35. That's not a great completion percentage. But if he threw for 343 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a couple of bombs, okay, what's your point? Sign me up. So, yeah, I get it. And that speaks to who he's been throughout his career. But the 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, which is usually right around where he hovers every year, other than 2020 when he was, I think, 16 up, 15 down. For the most part, he's a 30 over 8, 27 over 7 guy. If he does that here in Washington, and whether it's 62 or 63% completion percentage, if he throws 27 touchdowns and just 7 interceptions, and he throws for over 3,500 yards passing, as he did last year with Indianapolis, we are going to the playoffs. Unless the kicking game is atrocious and the defense is just as bad as it was early in the season last year, which I can't imagine it being as poor as it was last year, I should say, at the beginning of the season. I can't imagine it being that bad because we're not playing the same caliber of quarterbacks. He does what he did statistically last year, this year. We're going to the playoffs. Thank you for the super chat, King of the North. Red Wings, 0-1. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Red Wings 0-1 writes, to be fair, drops by his receivers played a role in that. I mean, those happen too, but we're not going to sit here and act like a bunch of drops, totaled a lot of his completion percentage numbers being affected. Every quarterback deals with drops, some more than others. But at the end of the day, it's more misses by the quarterback than there are drops by the receivers. They're going to be drops by receivers. They're going to be misses by the quarterback. Those things happen. They're factored in. And so I like Carson Wentz as a player. I've watched his entire career. I know what we're getting. I'm not overselling him. I'm not overrating him. I'm not telling you Carson Wentz is a top 10 quarterback in this league. I'm telling you that Carson Wentz has top 10 talent, but I'm not telling you he's a top 10 quarterback in this league. Far from it at this point of his career, okay? But what I'm telling you is Carson Wentz is better than 26th in the league. Carson Wentz is better than the shit that people have been saying about him and him ranking lower than guys like Justin Fields and Tua Tagovailoa and all of this bullshit. He's better than those guys, and he'll prove it. So, again, a lot can be made of Carson Wentz's career to this point, and everybody's got an opinion. But the facts are what they are. The numbers are what they are. And if you've watched him, you understand how he came about those numbers. Look, he could have had a ton more interceptions. He's put the ball in harm's way a ton of times, and if guys could catch, he'd have more interceptions. You could say that about a number of quarterbacks throughout the league. Right? They've thrown balls up there that should have been picked off, and somehow miraculously it finds the turf, or their guy fights for it, and it ultimately doesn't get picked off. But at the end of the day, his numbers are what they are, and we could debate about what those numbers say. You can't always go off the numbers, as I've said. You have to watch the game to have proper context. I feel very comfortable in the quarterback that we're getting. Okay, I feel very comfortable. My biggest concern with Carson was never the on-the-field play. I've said this from day one. When we got him, when I was not all that sold on the trade, I was indifferent at the time. When we first made the trade, I was like, I don't know how to feel, but I can tell you it's better than what we had, and we are desperate. This move reeks of desperation. But the whole time I was concerned about in between the ears, all the things I'd been hearing. Oh my God, the Colts were this gung-ho. They didn't even have a replacement in-house, and they wanted to move on from him. They were hell-bent on getting rid of him at all costs, knowing that they didn't have a replacement in-house. He must have been terrible there. Mentally, he must have been a wreck. He must have been a terrible teammate, a horrible leader. He must have been repulsive in that locker room. Nope, none of those things. Not even close. Actually, the polar opposite, which is why his teammates all came to his defense after he was traded and said that they thought that was a bullshit-ass move by their organization and that they wished him nothing but the best and that he was a stand-up guy and they loved him in that locker room. And if you watched Hard Knocks, you saw that. He endeared himself to his teammates. He became one of the guys. So I think it was a situation in Philadelphia that he played a part in his demise in Philadelphia and ultimately his exit. They played a part in that as well. And he's admitted to that. But I think Indy was totally different. I think that was literally the owner being pissed off that he didn't get vaccinated. His play down the stretch, coinciding with him testing positive for COVID and him not getting the vaccine and being an anti-vaxxer, pissed the owner off to the point where he put the failures of the end of that season on Carson Wentz and said, he can't be my quarterback. It makes me feel even more reassured that we got the right guy for the job. Now he's just got to go out and prove it. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Double up. Thank you for the super chat, doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Right. Justin, Colts offense struggles continue at camp. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't worry about that. That's the same thing I've been saying here. Matt Ryan is in a new offense again. Okay. He was in a new offense last year. He's in another new offense. I've already told you, I don't love the Colts skill position players. He's got to get into a rhythm and timing with those guys, all the while learning a new offensive scheme. It's a lot to throw on a guy's plate. So I don't know if that's a real headline or a real thing, but trust me, I said this at the top of the show. If you think Carson Wentz is the only guy that is in a new situation or hasn't gotten a ton of reps with his receivers, if you think he's the only guy struggling with consistency at camp right now, you're sadly mistaken. And for them to just single out Carson Wentz, that's bullshit. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is that's how this thing goes in the NFL. You go to a new team, it's a new system, you're throwing the ball to new guys. It's all a learning curve. And how fast you go on that curve, and if you're able to speed up that learning curve, is all dependent upon the work that is put in, not just by the quarterback, but the guys around him. You know, Terry talked about getting extra reps after practice, getting extra reps in anytime they can to get on the same page. That's what's going to speed up that learning curve. And not just Terry, but everybody getting in extra work. Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, it was a huge issue in Philly as well. There were drops, as I've mentioned with a number of quarterbacks. Drops are part of the game, and they happen. You don't want them to happen, but they happen. Some experience more drops than others. I'm not looking to make excuses for Carson Wentz. His completion percentage is what it is. Okay. The drops and the missed throws probably balance themselves out at the end of the day. If those guys didn't drop throws and, or he just made some more accurate throws on opportunities that are there, the number would be higher, right? But it goes both ways. The completion percentage probably balances itself out because even with those drops, if he makes some of those throws, the completion percentage is higher. If those throws aren't dropped by his receivers, but he still misses throws, the completion percentage is higher. So because both of those things are happening simultaneously, it's probably where it's supposed to be. So I don't really worry about that all that much. I'm not worried about what he did in Philly, not worried about what happened in Indy last year. All I use that is as a barometer for what I can expect here. But I'm hoping he's better than what he was in Indy. I'm hoping that he's better than what he was in his last year in Philly. I'm hoping we see more of the 2017 or the 2019 Carson Wentz. But at the end of the day, all I care about is what he does here. He's got a different set of weapons, a different offensive play caller, a different offensive line in front of him. There's a lot of moving parts. I want him to take all of the things that he's going to be blessed with this year, and I want him to make the most of it. Squeeze every single drop of success out of the rag that's going to be presented to him this year. That's what I want him to do. Billy Trust, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Billy Trust. Thank you for the super chat and being a member of the MOBB, who writes, the Lamar Jackson deal may be the deal that burst the quarterback bubble. Not sure if I would root for having a $45 million a year quarterback on the roster. Most of them don't win rings. I mean, Lamar is a different animal. He's a different species. And what they've done in Baltimore is they've essentially built the roster around his skill set. They're too far gone and they're too deep in to turn back now, right? They have to sign Lamar Jackson. Now, there may be a number that they feel like is fair market. There's a number that Lamar is looking at, and the Kyler Murray deal definitely doesn't help their case. But Lamar's looking around and saying, hey, I'm a league MVP. I'm one of the most winningest quarterbacks in the league in the regular season. Obviously, if you want the big bucks, what you do in the postseason is ultimately going to tell the story. But Josh Allen doesn't have a ton of postseason success yet. Obviously, it's like running into Jordan if you're the Knicks, or the Jazz. Somebody's that is just better than you is stopping you from getting where you ultimately want to go. And that has been the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. That said, that's different because, Josh Allen, who is his counterpart in that 2018 NFL draft, the only other quarterback that's any good in that draft class that went in the first round, he's won playoff games. He's taken his team to the AFC Championship. He was in a shootout last year of epic proportions after destroying, dismantling, and disassembling the New England Patriots in Wild Card Weekend. He lost to the Chiefs in an epic shootout that will go down as one of the greatest ends of an NFL playoff game in history, or at least one of the most exciting. So while you talk about the money and whether he's worth it or not, that's the going rate for a quarterback the caliber of a Lamar Jackson. And furthermore, you sign him to that deal today. In 3 years, that deal will look like peanuts. He'll be the 8th highest paid quarterback in the league because other guys are going to be up next, and the deals will only get higher and higher as the salary cap goes up and up. So it's a lot of money. It's a nice piece of your salary cap. Like, I think the quarterback is usually allotted for anywhere from 15 to 14% of your salary cap. It is what it is. It's just a part of the game. It's the nature of the beast of the position that is quarterback. It's the most important position. And if you've got a guy, you don't want to let that guy hit the streets. So the Ravens have to do what they have to do, and that's find a way to come to the table with Lamar and get him to sit down at the table, get him to pull out a chair and sit down and hammer out a deal. And whether that's a $45 million a year deal or what, it is what it is. But you got to get it done. That's how it goes in this league. Let's see. Got another super chat here. This one is from Commander Wow. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Commander. Women of Washington writes, hi, Lou. Wow, aka wins on the way. I like that too. 12-5 season. 100. I love it. I mean, I'm here for all of the 11, 12 win season smoke. I had somebody hit me up after the whole Bleacher Report article, and I think somebody even retweeted the clown post that the one fan, I don't even know if they're a fan of this team or not, when he said, I just left the Redskins practice and we won't win a game this season. And then he came at me like, and he's atting Lord Brunson and all of that shit, which is petty, and so I went back and forth with him because I had a little bit of time in my hands. I wasn't doing shit. So I went back and forth with him. And clearly, if he has been following me on socials, he would have seen that somebody tried to come at me, a Washington fan tried to come at me with some Jalen Hurts slander, similarly to the shit that was just put out about Wentz. And I swatted that shit away like Dikembe Mutombo, like I was Rudy Gobert. Get that shit out of here. It's training camp. What do you think is going to happen? And so I had to tell this dude, he said, and you still think you're going to win more games than the Eagles? Yeah, buddy. I do. Okay. I said, they're keeping count already? How many games y'all win this season? How many games we lost? They're keeping count? Did I miss a couple of games? Are we already 0-3? Did I miss some shit? Damn. I know that shit moves fast. Did I miss something? Oh, we talking about camp. Not a game. Not a game, but practice. Not a game. Not a game, but practice. We talking about that? Anyway, I'm with you. 12-5. Wins on the way. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Commander Wow. Got another super chat here. And this one is from, if I can find it. Well, we got a new member here. Burgundy Soldier. Stand up. You are officially in the building as the newest member of the MOBB fam. Y'all know what to do. Squad, you know what to do. Squad up. Show Burgundy Soldier some love. Welcome him with open arms and let him know how we do it here in the MOBB. Thank you for your patronage. Look forward to chopping it up with you. Once again, welcome to the squad. And I'm going to take this opportunity to remind you guys that if you're here, I appreciate you. If you're not a member, become a member. If you haven't subbed up, please do so for more great content. Hit the like button, as that helps this channel grow exponentially. If you haven't already hit it, over 400 viewers. 200 likes is a good number, but I'd like it to be at 300. I'm greedy. Why not? And turn on that notification bell. Like today wasn't supposed to be a live stream day. It was impromptu. But if you got that notification bell on, you noticed that I was going live today, and that's why you were able to join me. So that notification bell is important. Please make sure that you hit that if you haven't already done so. All right. So Burgundy Soldier, welcome aboard. Burgundy Soldier, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. And thank you for becoming the newest member of the MOBB, who writes, who's the next victim on Come Correct? The pilot episode was fire. I'm working on that, man. I'm working on that. I got so many things going on. Trust me, that series is not going to die. And it's going to be alive and well. And it's going to be a huge staple of this channel moving forward. I love the format. I love, and I honestly wanted to see, I wanted to let it sit and breathe for a little while, see where the numbers would go, to see if it was worth my time. One of the things that I'm working on, you know, one of the things that I'm not comfortable doing is reaching out to others to bring them on my channel. For whatever reason, a lot of times in the past, I've had issues with getting people to honor their commitments. It's been frustrating, and I get really frustrated. I don't trust people as is already. So when I reach out to somebody, they tell me yeah, and then they flake me, it just reinforces my want to be a hermit and just stay in my own bubble and not reach out. But I said part of the growth process is being uncomfortable, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and learning to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. So I'm starting to do that. And trust me, the numbers reflect that this is something that you guys want to see moving forward. Now, the real test will come when it is not an NFC East guest, because it's easy to throw Lloyd Brunson or someone from the Giants or the Cowboys or the Eagles up there. You guys are going to be all in. That's a family member. I want to see what happens when I throw a non-family member up there, or someone that is just like myself, someone that covers the entire NFL and has differing opinions. Will you watch then? That'll be the true test of Come Correct and its popularity. But I'm looking forward to all of it. And so I can't give you who I have in mind as future guests, but stay tuned. It's coming. Know that. Thank you for the super chat, Burgundy Soldier. Greatly appreciate you and the support. that you've shown. Let's see. Got a super chat here from Jason Files. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Jason Files, writes, "What up, Lou? Peace to you and the fam. Likewise to you and yours. If we don't promote Harris, we run the risk of losing him. Thoughts? What 3 position groups most worry you going into the season? Thanks for all you do. Have to win 10 games. We have to. That's not optional. If we don't win at least 10 games this year, that is a problem for me. I start to question everything that we've done. And again, the quarterback is huge. If Carson stinks, then that's going to impact winning 10 games. I don't care how well you've built the roster up or how much we believe in this group or that group. If the quarterback position stinks, you can't win 10 games. This league is not set up to reward teams with bad quarterback play. It isn't. I don't care how well you run it. I don't care, how good your defense is. I don't care how well coached you are. If you don't get good enough play out of the quarterback position, you can't win double-digit games in this league. So 10 is a must for me. But again, it all hinges upon what we get out of really Carson Wentz. I mean, the quarterback position as a whole, but really Carson Wentz. I love Chris Harris, our defensive backs coach. For those of you unaware who the Harris he was referring to, Chris Harris, defensive backs coach. I love him. I think he's going to make a great defensive coordinator. And ultimately, if he's good enough at that job, he may ultimately one day find himself as a head coach. I could see it. The energy that he brings reminds me a lot of Dan Campbell. And eventually you can't bottle that shit up for long. Eventually someone's going to pop the top on that shit. It's going to explode and someone's going to notice and he's going to get a job. And so I just feel like it's a matter of time before he gets in the room with the right people and becomes a defensive coordinator. And then the next step is him becoming a head coach, lighting it up wherever he goes, because the players are going to play for him. He's got too much energy. He's too infectious. It's impossible to not want to go run through a wall for a guy like Chris Harris. And he's an ex-player, so he can relate to what these players are going through. It's just too many. The signs are all there. This guy's going to be a rock star, in my estimation. I could be wrong. So you're pretty much insinuating the whole Sean McVay versus Jay Gruden thing all over again. Like, hey, remember Jay was coming off of, a winning season and then another winning season, 2 in a row, even though we were 8-7-1 and we should have went to the playoffs. And that debacle in week 17 versus the Giants, it was 2 winning seasons in a row. He's the only coach to have done that since Gibbs 1.0, 91, 92. So you had to put some respect on that man's name, even if you didn't want to at the time. I was a staunch supporter of Jay at that time, and I didn't want to get rid of him because we had won. And a lot of people were like, yo, get rid of this bum and promote Sean McVay if you think he's that good. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20. And you're kind of insinuating that this is a similar situation. Jack's ass is not the answer. That's what you're essentially saying without saying it. And you think Chris Harris is. And you don't want to lose him, and so something needs to be done. I don't see anything being done, to be honest. I think, especially if the defense plays well this year, Jack isn't going anywhere. Ron isn't getting rid of Jack. He loves Chris Harris. I don't think he's going to love him enough to promote him to defensive coordinator. So at the end of the day, I think you lose Chris Harris if he were to get that bump, right? Somebody were to call and say, hey, we would love to interview him for our defensive coordinator job. You can't deny them that opportunity because it's a forward move. You can only deny if it's a lateral move. So he would then have that opportunity. I can tell you this: he had built momentum in 2020, and had the defense not stunk, and there were so many defensive lapses in the back end, which you charge to his account. If that doesn't occur, he's probably a defensive coordinator this year on another team. But because the secondary was so bad at times last season, he had to fall on that sword, whether it was his fault or not. So I think he's in a position now for a big bounce back year, and I could see him getting a defensive coordinator job elsewhere. I don't think it'll be here, which is what you're insinuating. 3 position groups that most worry me going into the season. So Obviously, linebacker. You'd be a damn fool if linebacker didn't worry you. I actually feel good about quarterback with Carson. I don't feel great. I feel good. I'm like Stephanie Mills. I feel good. I feel good. I feel good about the quarterback position. I don't feel great. I'd love to feel great about it, but I don't. But I feel good. Like, even if Carson were to miss a couple of games, I feel good that Taylor Heineke can go in there and get the job done. Feel good about our situation. So linebacker is a position of concern for me. Tight end. I know a lot of you are high on Bates and this. I'm concerned about the tight end position because we're one or two. I'm just not going. I'm not even going to say it. We're one or two of them things away from that position being in peril. I mean, look at what happened at practice. I mean, we could be in some serious trouble. Like, think about how big of a godsend Ricky Seals-Jones was last year. Think about how poorly the season could have gone if he weren't there. And remember, he ultimately got hurt and missed the remainder of the season. But think about how badly the season would have gone had he not been there to get us through until Logan Thomas eventually came back and then got hurt again. There's no Ricky Seals-Jones to save us this year. We got to hope Cole Turner is ready to at least bare minimum give us what Ricky Seals-Jones gave us last year. And we're hoping that he can exceed that. But we got to hope at a bare minimum he can give us that. Well, number one, he got to stay healthy. We're hoping John Bates can be a better version of himself than he was last year and the flashes that he may have shown last season. And we got to hope Logan Thomas comes back and stays healthy. I'm concerned about tight end. Like some of the young guys, I want to see it on the field in these preseason games, but I'm concerned about tight end. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. And I think I am concerned. I am concerned about defensive tackle depth. I think I am. I'm not sure yet. I don't love what we have after Ferdarian Mathis. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. I want to say something. I'm not going to say it. I don't need to put that out into the atmosphere. I'm a little worried about defensive tackle still. And so linebacker, tight end, defensive tackle. I feel probably a little bit better than most about the cornerback position. I think I feel better than most, and maybe I'm in the majority here, but I think I put all of my faith and trust in John Matsko. And so whatever, comes at us offensive line wise, I think he's going to handle the shit in stride, and he's going to put the next guy out there, coach his ass up, and we're going to be fine on the offensive line. So I'm not as concerned, even though I have not been the least bit amused by the shit that's going on with the offensive line. I know that a lot of that is just trying to get these guys on one accord, and having not put the same 5 guys that we expect to be week 1 starters all out on the field at the same time doesn't help. So I'm not really worried about the offensive line because of John Matsko. Linebacker, defensive tackle, tight end are the positions that I'm the most worried about on this team as of right now. Then that's subject to change. There could be bigger issues right around the corner. But as of right now, as we sit here on August the 9th, those are the 3 positions. Thank you for the super chat, Jason Files. All right. Got another super chat. First of all, I got a new member here, and Spence Kalis. Stand up. You are officially the newest member of the MOBB. Thank you for joining the Mob Squad. Mob, you know what to do. Show Spence infinite amounts of love and support for joining the squad. A lot of perks that come with that. I'm excited to bring you on board. You've been a lot more vocal of late, so it's good to bring you in. Looking forward to chopping it up with you in the future. And once again, Spence Calise, welcome to the squad. Glad to have you. Got another super chat here from John Graves III. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. And JG3 writes, Lou, you were so worked up about the media and fake influencers that I think Ramon might have grown back out. Well, Ramon was a single soldier back in the day. He was the Winter Soldier. He's got friends now. And I told you I had to chop Ramon off a long time ago, but he started a movement, you know. So, yeah, I shouldn't have gotten worked up about that stuff. A lot of that was fake news, and I knew it, but still, it for some reason it hit a nerve. Similar to LB talking shit about the past. I know what the past is here, you know, but it's for whatever reason it still hits a nerve. I hate losing. I'm too damn competitive, and you know, sometimes it gets the best of me. And I hate when people talk shit. And that's why I generally don't bet on things I can't control. I don't like betting on things where I don't have any say-so in the outcome. Because I can live with me betting you $200 that I'm a better bowler than you, and then we go out on the lanes. And if I don't win, that's on me. I did that. But I can control the outcome. If I want to talk shit and tell you, man, I'll bust your ass in some ping pong. You don't want the smoke. Or you don't want any of this in Super Smash Brothers. If I talk shit, it's because I feel like I can back it up. But when I'm betting on someone or something that I have no control over, it leaves you and renders you helpless in the outcome of the situation. You can be as confident as you want to be, but at the end of the day, you have no say-so in how this goes. And that's frustrating. You know, rooting for a team that stinks and has stunk as long as Washington has, it's frustrating because it allows for the other members of the family to get their rocks off, especially when Philadelphia has been the most recent team to win a Super Bowl, even though that was their first. You would have thought it was their seventh. But what can we say? We haven't even played in an NFC championship game since 1991. We haven't played in the divisional round since 2005. What am I going to say? I can't say anything. So that's frustrating. So sometimes fake news gets to me because I'm too damn competitive. Alexander the Great. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Alexander the Great writes, started off sipping slow, but left the cup on the nightstand next to the water and woke up at 3 a.m. thirsty and just started guzzling. Hey, man, that's a tough place to be in. We've all done it. We've all started out the night sipping slow. It eventually catches up to you. You doze off right where you are. But you wake up at 3 a.m. and you look down and you see the cup still half full. And you're like, shit, I'm a little parched. And you take a sip. The sip turns into a gulp. The gulp turns into guzzling. And next thing you know, the cup's empty. I would certainly advise against that. I've advised against anything more than sipping at this point. However, I can't stop you from guzzling. I've talked about the schedule. I've talked about the roster, the improvements. I've talked about the improvement at the quarterback position for us. There's a lot of factors going into why we feel the way we feel. But this organization has found creative ways to spike the punch, and not in a good way. Which is why I tell you to sip slow. Protect yourself at all times. Thank you for the super chat, Alexander Great. Got another super chat. This one is from Johnny Boy 26. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Johnny Boy 26. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, it's very important we stick to the run. We need to create the matchups for us in the passing game, and running the ball consistently does just that. I think it is something that Ron Rivera has made abundantly clear to Scott Turner, that he would like to run the football more. The 4-game win streak last year, Antonio Gibson in the run game in particular was huge in that 4-game win streak. Ron continues to talk about that 4-game win streak like it was a 12-game win streak, but the run game was the catalyst. We saw what Carson Wentz did last year, with a dominant run game. We know what he is off of play action fake. We know what he can do pushing the football vertically. The run game sets all of that up. So I do think they want to run the football more. I do think they want that to be a bigger part of the offense, but don't get it twisted. Scott Turner wants to throw the football. And you'd be a damn fool to think that Scott Turner wants to be – every coordinator wants to be balanced. But what's balance? What is the definition of balance? Clearly, for most of us, it's 50-50 run-pass ratio. That's not realistic. In today's NFL, balanced is probably more like 55-45 or even 60-40, depending on who you're talking to and what your offense looks like. I think this is a 57-43 type of offense. Ron would like it to be closer to 53-47, not 57-43. But that's Scott's nature. His nature is to throw it around the yard and, run after you've gained the lead by throwing it. Now you run the football. So we'll see what happens. Nicholas Denson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Nicholas writes, hey, Lou, had a great time at practice Saturday night. Ran into Pro Tech and a couple of others. And I proposed to my girlfriend there, and she said yes. Congratulations, man. What a beautiful thing that is. Glad you had a great time. Glad you ran into some of the content creators there. And that's a life-altering decision that you made. And hopefully it's the right one. I trust your judgment. And that's something you'll always be able to look back on and say that August 6th practice under the lights at FedEx was the night I proposed to my then fiance, now wife. And we've been happily married ever since. And so it's a beautiful thing. Congratulations, Nicholas. And I'm glad you enjoyed yourself at practice. And that'll be a night that you'll never forget. Let's see. My ass stank. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, that video made me see how nice Sam Mills is. He's a good dude. Like, no one has. See, this is the thing that people they villainize. Is that a word? They vilify. That's the word. They vilify people that they don't like, right? And turn them into something that they're not. Just because we don't love Sam Mills as a defensive line coach doesn't mean he's a bad dude. Like, no one ever said he was a bad guy. It's a lot of times bad coaches are very likable dudes. They're just not great coaches for whatever reason. I think Sam Mills is a good dude. We've heard him speak before. I may mock the way he talks, and he talked about showing Ryan Kerrigan film, but he's a good dude, man. So always make sure you're able to decipher between the two. My ass stank. Thank you for the super chat yet again. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, bro, you know what's crazy? Joe Gibbs be talking all soft, but the players said his practices were physical as F. Gibbs 2.0 had the best years in Dan's tenure. Maybe. Well, he went to the playoffs 2 times in 3 years. Did Gibbs? He went 05 and 07. No other coach has done that, so you could argue that it was the best stretch. It probably was. I don't know if there's really a debate there. He still left Washington with a sub 500 record for, as good as he was in those 2 seasons out of the 4. Obviously, when he coached, it was a much different time. You hear guys romanticize about yesteryear, talk about how practices were tough, 2-a-days, things of that nature. That doesn't exist anymore. The CBA has changed everything. It's not the same as it once was. So you could do different things in those days that you can't do anymore. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. But Gibbs was somewhat soft-spoken, but he wasn't. Like, when he meant business, those guys knew he meant business, right? You don't have to scream at the top of your lungs to get your point across. If that's your personality, cool. That's who you are. But like Tony Dungy is a soft-spoken guy. He doesn't scream a ton, but I'm pretty sure he got his point across. And when he meant business, his players knew he meant business. So I can tell you this much. I think, and Ron's no joke. We all know that. I think Ron Rivera can have a successful tenure here. I think he's capable of doing that. To me, it really starts with this upcoming season. The first 2 years were more about changing the culture, building up this roster to be a sustained winner. You've done that now. You've gotten the culture. And again, all of the Daniel Snyder shit, that's Ron, and he said this, he has nothing to do with that. He can't help that Daniel Snyder continues to paint a black eye around the eye of this franchise. That there's nothing that he can do about that. All he can do is control the things that he can control, which is, bringing in players that fit the culture and identity of what this team wants to represent on and off the field, in the community. All he can do is bring players here that are able to represent this organization the way that he feels like they should on the field and get the production out of them that will lead to victories on a consistent basis. He's improved the quarterback position. He's done all of the things that he needed to do. He's improved this roster. Now it needs to reflect itself in the win-loss column, in that left-hand column. The success needs to be had there. And if he can do that, I think he can be really successful and have the most successful tenure of the, Snyder reign of terror. But right now, he's got to win, and he's got to win big this year. I think it starts with this season, honestly. All right. Metaphor. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, I'm down with it. I believe in Ron's plan. Hell, I drove down 4 hours from Jersey. For what? Practice. It was practice. Well, that shows your level of dedication. You believe in the product. You believe in what Ron is selling. You believe in these improvements that have been made to the roster and the quarterback position. You believe in all of these things. And so, as do I. And so, you believing is great. And Ron wants more fans like yourself. But at the end of the day, it's going to take more than lip service and improvements on paper to get people to buy in, to want to drive 4 hours for practice, or hell, even a game. Forget practice. 4 hours for a game against a team that is driving down 3 or 4 hours. So, yeah. At the end of the day, there are a number of fans that feel the way you do, but you're in the minority. You're not in the majority anymore. And in order to get that number back up, It's going to take winning, and it's going to take sustained winning to keep those fans around. You can get hot, have a big season, get a lot of fans on board, but if you go, I'd liken it to 2015. At the end of that season, you like that, all of that stuff, that Green Bay game, home playoff game. The environment it wasn't great, but it was a much better environment than it had been. That first game of the season at home Monday night for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that was a lively environment. Obviously, the Steelers are going to bring a ton of fans and, the terrible towels, all that good stuff. And they did. But it was a ton of Washington fans that night to see Antonio Brown twerking on us. It doesn't take much for the air to be, knocked out of your sails, so to speak. So that 2016 season and the way it ended with the loss to the Giants, any goodwill and all of the building that they had done over the last season and a half or so, in 2015 when they got hot down the stretch, and in 2016 getting to 6-1 heading into that final game of the season, it all came crashing down and burned with that loss. And they were never the same. They never rebounded after that loss to the Giants in 2016. So you can have a good season, but it needs to be sustained as well. Thank you for the super chat, Metaphor. Luck, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Luck writes, special shout out to Jairus the hater. We know you're watching because you love Lou so much. You can talk, bro. We friendly. Look, I've already said this. I got no beef with Jairus, right? He's a family member. I had no beef with this dude. And I don't think he's actually trying to beef with me. Like, a lot of people like to make stuff up. Like, I remember once upon a time, y'all thought I was beefing with Rico and Ed, and I never had a problem with any of these dudes, right? They moving over there, I'm moving over here, but we all family, and I've always said that. And so I don't know if he's really got anything against me or not. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't like me, and that's fine too. But I don't think he doesn't necessarily like me. He may just feel different than me, and he might want to talk about it, and that's cool too. But like, there are ways to go about that, and that ain't the way to go about it. Like, you're not gonna make me jump up like, oh, I'm about to get at him like that. I'm like, come on now, like that ain't how I move. And so you're definitely not gonna get out of me what you think you're gonna get out of me if you think I'm gonna move that way, because that's definitely not how I operate. So, in any event, thank you for that super chat, Luck. Greatly appreciate you. Tony P56, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Tony P writes, bring back the purple button up. Hey, back in them days, I thought I was killing the game, man. I was out here in the garage, in my Sunday's best, my J.C. Penney's top of the line, buddy. Out here in my Sunday's best with my little tie on, different shirts, thinking I was killing the game, man. And it was terrible. I'm not gonna lie. Some of that stuff is cringeworthy when I go back and watch. I've said this before. It's cringeworthy stuff. But anyway, y'all know what it is. Y'all know what it is. Derek B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Derek B, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, Jahan is a weapon. PR sideline 10 is in the way. At the end of the day, I think Jahan is a major weapon, right? I think he is, I've said this already, I think he is the answer to the issues we had last year in terms of Curtis Samuel being injured and how that impacted the offense. Curtis Samuel proofs this offense. I don't think Curtis Samuel is a hindrance to this team, especially if he is healthy. He only helps. You can never have enough weapons. So if you ask me, if we can keep him healthy And I'm betting on Samuel being healthy this year, playing more games than he missed a season ago. If we can keep him healthy, I think we've got a chance to have a dynamic and explosive offense. So I'm not going to have the name calling with Curtis Samuel and talk about, what he is or what he isn't. He just needs to stay healthy at the end of the day. So thank you for the super chat, Derek B. All right. AfroCat2136. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, "Sup, Lou? Sup, AfroCat? Back seven will be our strength this year, particularly our secondary. Number 31 plays at an all-pro level, and we have at least one or two guys challenge elite status. Communication plus continuity is the key." I agree. Now, we'll see about 31. Ron actually talked about him. You need help? It's not in the suitcase? Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. All right. All right. Sorry for that. I am back. I don't know if Cam Curl will be an all-pro safety. I love Cam Curl. Ron talked about him maturing this year and, the steps that he's taken since being drafted. I want to see what this year holds for him, because I think if he gets more consistency around him, I think it will allow him to do more and maybe take that next step as a defender. I want to see the back end is really interesting. They're having the best camp of any position group on the team right now, the back end. When we hear about reports from practice, it's consistently the secondary getting their hands on footballs, picking them off, really being disruptive, communication being at an all-time high with this group. And, they keep harking back to last year and the lack of communication and this, that, and the third, and how it's been stronger this year and in this camp. And I want to believe in all of that. I want to feel like, oh man, they figured it out. I got to see it. I got to see that there aren't any defensive breakdowns, that there is no receiver 5 yards behind the defense, There isn't anybody looking at somebody like, hey, where were you at? I need to see that. I need to see them keeping everything in front of them, right? So communication plus continuity is the key. That is facts. And I've talked about that. You guys have talked about that. The coaching staff has talked about that. You know, every sport is different. You know, baseball, you don't have to have continuity. You could have, 20 dudes on the roster that can't stand each other. But each guy individually doing their job is good enough, and you can be just fine. They don't have to say a word to one another. Because baseball really is an individual sport. It's a team sport, but it's an individual sport. You play your position, you go up to the plate, you bat, and then where the team aspect comes into play is, can you sacrifice, an at bat to move a guy over? Can you put the ball in play where you need to put it in play to move that runner from here to there? That kind of thing. Throwing a guy out, a relay, hit a double in the gap, guys trying to score from first. You play the ball off the wall, you throw it to the cutoff man who throws a dart to the plate, and you throw a guy out. That's when teamwork comes into play. But in the NFL, every single play is requiring all 11 guys to be on one accord. And so if one guy doesn't do his job, it can mess the entire thing up. In any aspect, special teams, offense, defense. One guy misses an assignment, one guy misses the call, you changed it, he didn't get it, and it could go to shit just like that. So communication and continuity is absolutely paramount in this particular sport. So I'm looking at this back seven and hoping that they step their game up this year, because it's going to be huge if this defense is to be better than it was last year and consistently better. It's going to take the back seven being as good as the front four, if not, equal to or better. Thank you for the super chat, AfroCat2136. King of the North, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, King of the North, writes, Wentz has a margin for error here. Terry, Jahan, LT, and Cole all have big catch radiuses. Plus, we have speed to match with Carson's big arm. Hopefully, he will check it to JD too. Should be more room to run. It's a good fit. It's a great fit. That's part of the reason I'm so high on Carson, is because to me, this offense actually fits his skill set to a T. Carson, to me, is more of a gun guy. I think he does his best work out of the gun. We're a primarily gun offense. I think Carson is better in situations where you spread teams out. That's what we do quite often. It's not that abnormal to see us in an empty set. We start out with a 4 wide receiver set and then motion the back, and it's now empty. It's not uncommon for us to be in 11 personnel and allow the quarterback to kind of just go to work. We really live in 11 personnel, to be honest with you. And so I just see this offense with the weapons that we have and what we can do. I just see this being a great fit for Carson. I truly do. But it's up to him and the players around him and Scott Turner. It's up to all of them collectively to get the most out of what is here in Washington. I feel like it's a lot. I think that I think the team overall is being overlooked because the individual parts of this team are being overlooked. We talked about Carson Wentz and his standing in the league and what people think he is. They think he's done. They think his career is what it is. Like, we know what Carson Wentz is. Like, You would think Carson Wentz has been Sam Darnold to this point of his career. That's how they're treating him. It's just total disrespect. The receiving core. There are too many unknowns to where people want to give us credit. That's fine. I totally understand that. You just got right now to the outside public, you just have Terry McLaurin. They're not accounting for Jahan Dotson. Who's Curtis Samuel? When's the last time he played? That's how they're looking at him. And De'Ami Brown, who? Y'all drafted him last year? Oh, okay. Cool. They don't know who he is either. So as far as they're concerned, our receiver group doesn't scare you. Doesn't scare anybody. And that's fine. Tight end group, I'm questioning the tight end group myself. So if I'm questioning the tight end group, I know people out there aren't checking for our tight end group. And rightfully so. Once again, I get it. Running backs, I like our group. I think our group is established. Yet I don't think anybody's talking about Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick and you throw in Brian Robinson. I don't think people are really checking for our running back group either. The only group that consistently gets any credit is the offensive line. And now they're like, hey, they don't have Brandon Sheriff anymore. So that group's probably compromised now. So you go to the defensive side, and that's the side of the ball that everybody thinks is good. Like if you're not watching Washington, the first thing they say is that vaunted Washington defense. No, the defense was ass-tastic last year. You clearly have not been watching. You're just regurgitating what you heard everybody else say, which is that this defense is this and this defense is that and that defensive line is this and that. Nah, they got to prove it. So I think the reason that this team as a whole is being overlooked is because people don't really think the individual parts make up a team that is scary. And you're only as good as the sum of your parts. And I don't think people think the sum of our parts are all that great, which is why the outlook for the season isn't great. Okay. And that's why I feel a lot better because to your point, the margin of error is a lot. It's bigger than it has been in the past for any quarterback here because we didn't have talent. The quarterback position, we needed more from that position because we didn't have 3 or 4 guys that we loved at the receiver position. We didn't have 3 backs that we could go to that we felt good about. We didn't have a tight end group that has upside. You're still not sure, but has upside and does have some depth to it if everyone's healthy. We haven't had that. It's been one guy at the running back position, one guy at receiver, nobody at tight end, or one guy at tight end. Hell, there was a time when we had 2 tight ends in Jordan Reed and Vernon Davis. But it was always something. No running game at all when Kirk was here. 0 run game to speak of. It was non-existent. There was always something. There are, to me, outside of the tight end position, and that can be alleviated with just health. All of my qualms about that particular position can be alleviated and quelled with just health. There are no holes in this offense. Not at least clear ones. If we're healthy. That's the key. Got to stay healthy. But as far as I'm concerned, there are no clear holes in this offense. And that allows Carson Wentz to have a greater margin for error. Because there were teams like that Eagles team in 2020. That wasn't a super talented Eagles roster. That's the same garbage-ass roster that he drug to a 9-win season that won the division the year prior in 2019. They didn't add a ton of guys to that roster. They added 1 or 2 guys. They added Devontae Smith. He was 21, right? He was last year's draft, right? So he wasn't even there. You know what? They added the TCU kid. That's trash. They added him. How is that supposed to help Carson Wentz? We had a chance to add Justin Jefferson. Anyway, Jalen Reagor, that's who they added. So it was pretty much the same group. And this time, Wentz wasn't able to get it done. And it made him look bad. And he wasn't good. Okay? Let's not kid ourselves. But the team around him wasn't very good. That wasn't a good Philadelphia Eagles roster. So, anyway, I think it's a great fit. I think Scott Turner's offense is a great fit for Carson. I think this roster is set up for success, and I just want him to take advantage of it. I just want Carson to take advantage of this opportunity. Because as I've said already, when we first traded for him, I think this is his last opportunity to be the unquestioned leader and starter of an NFL franchise. I would like to see him take advantage of it here. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Metaphor, writes, please make Come Correct with Adam Rank happen. He would never come on this show. Never. And I wouldn't blame him. There's no winning for Adam Rank coming on a show like mine. None. There's not going to be any boost to his credentials, right? There's no boost to his fanfare or his brand. It can only serve as a boost to mine. So a lot of times in situations like that, it needs to be mutually beneficial. It's not. It would be one-sided. So why would he do it? I would love to have him on the show, because I guarantee you he has no idea what the hell's cooking up. And, I don't know what his favorite team is. I think I heard somebody say the Bears was his favorite team. I don't know, because I don't care. I would assume someone that thinks we're going to be 3-14 with all the things that are going on, they have to be a fan of one of the other teams in the division. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe he's just that ignorant to the facts that are surrounding this team. I mean, how could you think that we're going 3-14 with, first of all, just off the strength of the schedule alone? How could you think that if we found a way to win 7 games last year with the schedule as is, or as it was, how could you think that we're going to regress to the point where we only win? Again, I don't know. I don't want to keep talking about that guy. He's a clown. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, JP, writes, do you see a Super Bowl in our future with Ron and company? That's hard to say. This season will go a long way in determining how I feel about the prospects of us hoisting a Lombardi, because you got to have a quarterback. And if Carson isn't that guy, no, I can't see us doing a damn thing until we get a quarterback. That's what changes everything. The Chargers, they couldn't see Super Bowl in their future until they got Justin Herbert. Now they're like, yo, we can win a Super Bowl. Bills couldn't see themselves winning the Super Bowl until they got Josh Allen and he started playing the way that he's been playing. Now they're like, yo, we got to win a Super Bowl. It comes down to the quarterback. The Colts, who didn't think the Colts were going to win a Super Bowl with Andrew Luck? He retires and they haven't even been remotely close. That team got to an AFC championship game, if you forgot. They got to an AFC championship game with Andrew Luck. You need a quarterback. And if Wentz is that guy, yeah, I can see it. If he's not, back to the drawing board. No, I don't see it. 1/6 Devil Doc, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Shout out to your wife. As always, 1/6 Devil Doc writes, great insight as always, Lou. I appreciate your honesty and how you break down everything. You have that it factor, bro. Keep it up. I appreciate that. I mean, I try to bring the reels. You don't always agree, as my man Burgundy Fly Guy used to say, but the mission here is always free, right? You don't always have to agree, but the admission here is free. We're not always going to agree. We're family members. Family members don't always agree, on 100% of every topic, right? But at the end of the day, it's all love, and we support one another, and that's what this is, And so I have my opinions. You don't have to agree with them, but they're going to be based in sound logic. Whether you agree with them or not is fine, but it's how I feel. So I'm going to bring that to your doorstep. And then the things that are facts, I'm going to bring that to your doorstep as well. And I'll allow you to do with that what you so choose to and please to do with, right? As I always like to say, hey, that's just some food for thought. You do the dishes, all right? All I'm doing is it's a potluck. I'm bringing my dish, all right? You go ahead and consume, and you could do the dishes afterwards if you like, or not. It's up to you. Jason Files, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Jason Files writes, Jay Gruden's biggest downfall, not bringing a proven DC. That was first year, i.e. Wade come correct versus Carson comeback tour. Yeah, Wade Phillips, Wade P. That was one of his biggest downfalls, was not getting a competent defensive coordinator in here. But we didn't have a lot of talent either, but a good defensive coordinator gets the most out of what he has. And we didn't have a lot. Let's keep it a buck. Those weren't talented defenses that underachieved. We didn't start feeling that way until we got all these first rounders on the defensive line. Probably after Payne was drafted, that was 2018. That's when we started feeling like, all right, man, what's up with this defensive shit, man? Like, we got to get this thing under control. Jay was already gone by then, right? Was Jay going on? No. Jay didn't go until 2019 was his last year. And we hired Ron in 2020. So that's when we started saying, man, what the hell are we doing on defense anyway? Like, we got all these first rounders on the defensive line, and we still garbage? You can't do nothing with all of this stuff? That's when it was a revolving door in the secondary. We haven't had any linebacker play for a very long time. So I don't know if Wade Phillips would have been able to resurrect. That defense was a corpse. I don't know if he would have been able to resurrect it or not, but I damn sure would have loved to have seen Wade Phillips attempt to over the guys that we had parading through here, Joe Barry and Greg Minuski and the likes. Yeah, I would have much rather have seen that for sure. Carson's comeback tour. It starts week 1, with Dougie P. I don't even know if there's any animosity there or not. But it starts week 1 against Jacksonville. So I'm looking forward to it. That is for sure. Metaphor, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Metaphor writes, Ron's 25-25 after this year. 500. Book it. So that would mean, because Ron is 14-19 right now, so that would mean that we were 5 games over 500, which means you have us at 11-6. Okay. I'll take that. At 11-6, I will definitely take that for sure. I hope you're right. Aaron Carson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Aaron Carson writes, in Chi-Town, I'm rocking the new Commanders cap, the same one you're wearing. He said, in my humble opinion, the best looking NFL cap. Agree or no? Is it the best? I don't think it's the best NFL, hat. Like, this is the draft hat of every single team in the NFL. So all you're doing is changing out the colors, and but it's the same concept for every single team. So, like, I bought my dad one of these. He's a Cowboys fan, obviously. I bought him one for Father's Day, and it looked just like this, but it had Cowboys colors on it. So I think for most of the fan bases, it's a dope hat. I like it. That's why I bought it. And it's cool, but I don't think it's the best in the league. I don't think it's the best in the league. All right. Let's see if we got any more supers. We might be done. And we are. So that was the last super chat. So let me say this before I go. I put out a video on Saturday, and that video was essentially me talking about the most indispensable player on the football team on both sides of the ball. I thought it was an easy question. It was a softball, question. Not as hard as the one the previous weekend, but I was eager to see what some of the answers would be. And I was not surprised this time. Last week or the week prior, I was actually surprised by some of the answers and pleasantly surprised. This week, I kind of feel the same way that you do. Most of you said, duh, this is an easy one. It's Terry on offense and it's Jonathan Allen on defense. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I could make a case that the most indispensable player is Jahan Dotson on offense. I don't think you could argue maybe Cole Holcomb because we don't have any other option if he were to go down. I think that's the only other guy defensively not named Jonathan Allen that you could have made a case for defensively is Cole Holcomb. I mean, just because of the sheer lack of options behind him. You can't name either one of the defensive ends, even though I clearly believe that this defense is not better off without them. But there are this bizarre way of thinking, well, we were better when they were we weren't better when we were out of the lineup. Okay, when those guys were out of the lineup. One of our best defensive games of the season was against Green Bay, and they were both in the lineup for that game. So, again, miss me with we were better without them. We might have been more disciplined, but we're not better. There's a difference. So you can't choose either of the defensive ends. I think it's either Holcomb or Allen. I think it's Allen just because of the leadership qualities that he brings. When you need a soundbite, who do they go to? They go to Jonathan Allen. When you need leadership, who do you go to? Jonathan Allen. When we win a big game, who's the guy giving the speech in the locker room? If it's not Terry, it's Jonathan Allen. And just think, you not only do you lose the production on the field, the high football IQ and character, but you also lose the leadership if he's not available. Same thing can be said for Terry on the offensive side of football. Not only do you lose the tenacity, the toughness, the ability to overcome adversity and find a way to get it done no matter what the circumstances are, type of play, but you also lose that leadership on the offensive side, the accountability, the guy that will still practice despite being injured and set the example for the rest of the team. You lose that. I say Jahan Dotson is a guy that is intriguing to me because I just told you he Curtis Samuel proofed the offense. So if you take him away, you're essentially back to where you were last season, right? Got Terry, not sure about Curtis, not sure about De'Ami. You're essentially, and this time you don't have Adam Humphries to help lessen the burden, and you don't have DeAndre Carter to come out of nowhere and try and save you. So you could argue Jahan is that guy, but it's Terry. It's Terry. So anyway, I wanted to just throw that out there, and let's get out of here. I got a super chat here from my guy, Chauncey Davis, the OG triple OG. Chauncey Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, breathe, relax, and enjoy. Thank you. Well said. Good night, he says. And on that note, that is the perfect way to end the show. Remember, tomorrow's show is going to feature, if you are a member of the MOBB and you're interested in going to the only home preseason game that we have this year against the Carolina Panthers, I think it's going to be a very fascinating preseason game, to say the least. I cannot wait to watch. Bart Scott, can't wait. Then tune into tomorrow's video and follow the directions. Okay. I am a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold. Until we meet again, post up. Take command. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I'd so thank you guys for joining me tonight on this impromptu live show. You're not used to Mondays, but you still stuck it out with the kid anyway. And for that, I truly do appreciate you. With that said, you guys take care. God bless and good night.
LouieTeeNetwork.